pause. Maybe something went a little bit wrong.
Ooh, yeah, don't know. We'll find out shortly. But all credit to Humanoid. 3-on-1 after the roam. And as always, self-made at the initiation of a play for SK Gaming. SK Gaming, by the way, 33% of remaining scenarios and results get them into playoffs. And them watching Misfits just lose is a gigantic advantage. If SK win, puts distance between that 6th and 7th position.
How many of those stats do you have memorized?
A fair. I actually do have it written down, so I was reading it off paper, to be fair. But I am checking in between every game, talking to our stats team. I also have an update, by the way. My stats team ran the head-to-heads as well. If Splice win, I mentioned that they would guarantee a head-to-head for playoffs. With head-to-heads taken into account, Splice will guarantee a playoff spot with the win.
Perfect. So a lot on the line there. You can understand now why maybe a couple of the Splice members looked a little bit nervous. You know, taking down G2 is one thing, but just every game in front of you.
Yes. That's what you got to do when you get to playoffs for a team that's historically been a playoffs mainstay. It is an SK pause, as you can see. Getting an update here from, I can see Perian, sorry. Taking a look at exactly what will be happening.
This was actually my question, because you looked at that play and you could see the Lissandra was coming down the lane, that it was Yorick and Nocturne, but Lissandra was conveniently absent from that. So okay. I'm curious if something went wrong there on Perian's end that was the difference maker.
Well, I can find out that there is a Shadowplay review on the go. So as our league officials backstage are looking at the footage, we just get to build the tension. You know, we just get to keep taking a look at the game. And, oh, man, I actually can't put myself into the mindset of these guys that are sitting there, especially SK Gaming, who have honestly impressed and surprised a lot of fans and viewers. Expectations were very low for this team coming into the split, despite the fact they had that core of Mad Lions players. But they've picked up a number of wins. They've been particularly impressive in some of their wins. And, like, you know, Selfmade is the blowout player for the squad. They surpassed all power rankings and expectations from pre-split to now where they stand.
And I think it's because it's not just Selfmade to sing his praises. Perian gets a lot of praise from so many different mid laners throughout the league, even though it feels like competitively on stage, you know, the Friday, Saturday games, that you're not seeing Perian have these big pop-up performers. But again, anytime you talk to someone, his name always comes up.
Yeah.
And it's kind of these small intangibles behind SK, because if Splice are so good at their fundamentals, SK are a really good momentum. I don't want to call them an emotional team, but they're super proactive. Selfmade very rarely looks for things like counter ganks. He's often the first jungler to the play.
Yes, that's true.
And so when they do have tempo in a game, when they are playing on the offense, SK can look super clean because they know where exactly to attack the map, how to say we're going mid lane, we're going top lane, like what objective is the easiest objective to secure and when they have the cooldowns to do it. Their problems arise when they start to fall back and they need to play a bit more reactively and defensively, and that's where a lot of teams struggle.
It's really funny though, because it's true for Splice as well in many ways, especially the second half of your discussion, or how both of these teams, when they get to play their style, they look great. But when they have to react or, like, you know, differ from the playbook, a few more question marks prop up.
Differ from the playbook, but I actually think Splice are very good at playing from behind. Few teams can play from a back foot, but because Splice's fundamentals are so clean, they very immediately understand, okay, we can no longer force plays because we're not strong enough to win in team fights. What's the first step? And it's to secure defensive vision back in their own jungle. So if you watch them, anytime they fall behind, first thing, everyone's got control wards. Everyone's got their sweepers. They're clearing everything out, and they're opening free farm lanes so they can start scaling up on Kobbe. They'll also usually have a late game insurance policy pick on this guy, something like a Tristana or a Vayne, if you will.
Yeah.
And they'll just start making clear funnel paths for him to get those items and then look for the big 5v5s.
I think that's really important. And, you know, one of those memes from earlier in the split was that if you get past 35 minutes in a Splice game, Splice are going to win. You know, they have a reliable late game. And it's a testament to everything you've talked about in terms of their fundamentals, their basics, their ability to neutralize other teams that are unable to punish them.
Yeah, but that's the thing with the language. It's like, it's putting the decisiveness in the other team, like, oh, you know, I decided to take this to 35 minutes, and it's taking away the agency from Splice. No. They are very good at getting the game to 35 minutes, whether they're winning or not.
I think that's super, it's really, really nuanced, and it is very impressive. And it's kind of a similar way that if you want to beat G2, you as the opponent have to counter their strengths, whether that's in draft, whether that's playstyle, but, you know, the onus is on you to take away their power. And the onus is on other teams to take away Splice's power and their reliability.
And why I was so shocked about G2's priority of something like a Karthus jungle is it's very easy to attack Splice in lanes. Xerxes is the very proactive early member from them. He is a very gank-oriented jungler. This time around, he's attacking self-made specifically, so you're not feeling his presence in terms of ganking top lane, ganking mid, ganking bot, but it's, you know, stealing away Krugs, making sure that he's shadowing where self-made is, trying to disrupt his flow.
Yeah.
But if you are preparing for Splice, I'm like, take every single winning lane matchup you can find, get the counter picks, and try to blow these guys up in the lane phase because they do like to play very patient, very cautious. Kabe is a perfect example of kind of the essence of Splice. He's not there to kill you. If you give it to him, of course he'll take it.
Yeah, he'll punish the mistakes.
But he knows where I'm playing for the late game. I'm not playing for this lane phase.
Yep, I'm playing for the win, and we know where we get our wins at what times. So while the officials continue to investigate, we will just keep chatting. And my stats team, they continue to run the numbers. There is a whole bunch of scenarios. We're talking over 16,000 options left. So as I've mentioned, if Splice win this game, not only do they guarantee playoffs, they also 100% guarantee Vitality make it into playoffs as well. I think it was only like less than 1% chance they didn't make it. But with the win here, obviously pushing SK down to the, shall we call it Misfits tier, at 7 wins and 9 losses. A little harsh, sorry. You're wincing in pain there for us.
That's a bit brutal. I like the Misfits.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously, if SK join them, then the win-loss difference will guarantee Team Vitality are locked into the top 6 along with Splice.
I mean, the fact of the matter is you have legacy orgs like Schalke, like Misfits, and now SK joining them down there. And SK could very easily be the nail in the coffin to seeing one of these fan favorites not make it into top 6.
What's even more exciting is the new teams in Exile and Rogue. They could be the ones digging the hole for the coffin to go in. Yes, other teams can obviously complete it, but you can't afford to lose those games. And the upsets that Exile have pulled off has made it very, very interesting. So yeah, guys, unfortunately, we do have this extended pause. So SK Gaming did ask for a play to be reviewed, and our team backstage are currently reviewing it.
And I stand strongly. I know it's always obnoxious when you have to go through kind of like a technical pause like this, but in a game that is so high stakes, check everything. Double check it. If you feel that something was wrong, you don't want to, you know, play this game out, have everything go sideways and say, oh, you know, if I had only called on that. Just err on the side of caution.
Agreed.
Make sure that it's all good.
Well, taking a look at some of the matches, I talked about some of those heartbreak games. I mean, SK play Rogue next week, and they play Vitality, so can't afford to make any mistakes. I mean, Vitality's going to be a super tough game. And for Splice, they've got Misfits and Fnatic, so, you know, Splice, as you mentioned, could eliminate Misfits with a win, if they win here today as well, and you start to do the mental math of wins and losses.
Yeah, it almost feels like at this point that Misfits are going to be eliminated just because they have lost the game. So regardless of all of the good ground that they made in the first half of the split,
they don't control their destiny anymore.
It's just been spent.
Yeah, all that good credit is removed. It's a very, very difficult scenario. We thank you very much for the coach shots as well, production, as the teams continue to chat, and fans here. Also, I've been talking a lot about the Portuguese fans because they were here making noise yesterday, but I also believe there's about 50 Danish fans here today.
37 of them, and wait.
As you can hear. Now, the last time...
Wait.
Yes.
One guy from Norway. Who is it?
Is there one guy from Norway?
Yeah, I was talking to Martin backstage.
Okay. We actually have a Norwegian scriptwriter, so that's a shout out for him as well. Now, I am disappointed because the last time there was a Danish plus, everybody had Deficio faces. And I guess he's just not that much of a hot commodity anymore. So just one guy with the face. You know, warms my heart ever so. I actually think it is autographed by Deficio on the forehead as well. So if our production team was to get a look at the middle row. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I do actually have an update for you after this pause. SK Gaming's Pyrion, his client minimized underneath the turret. League officials have investigated and have offered SK a chrono break. SK Gaming has accepted the chrono break, which will be set 5 seconds prior to the play at 8 minutes 25 seconds. Those of you who may not be familiar with chrono break, it is one of the tools that we have on the tournament realm to recreate the game at an earlier state. I assume that'll be just before that gank in the mid lane.
Makes a lot of sense. As I was saying, it felt like when it showed Pyrion on screen, I was like, hey, I thought there was 3 members in that gank right there, but I don't really recall Lissandra doing anything. I was waiting for the replay to see what happened, and it seems like Pyrion got kicked out of the client.
Yeah, I mean, extensors out of your control. All right, so this is actually just after the play. I will just refresh everyone's memory if you have just joined us. Chrono Break took place after SK Gaming accepted the offer. Humanoid was able to outplay a 3v1 gank in the mid lane, which Selfmade initiated and spent his flash for. Humanoid's lost flash and cleanse, Frostgurren.
Again, it's kind of, where's the bad news for both sides? Well, Selfmade doesn't have the flash, but good news, Pyrion does have his flash as well as his ultimate available, and Humanoid's looking mighty fine and tasty. No cleanse, no flash. It could be a very easy repick gank, but Humanoid knows that full well. And as we said in game number 1, his goal is no longer to play this lane. He is playing only for the farm. He is a visitor, a tourist here.
Well, fortunately, he's got blue buff, so he'll be able to farm up ever so slightly easier than our previous game. And Splice will be starting off this Mountain Drake at 9 minutes on the clock. Vizichachi throws down the Slicing Maelstrom, but he's into a gigantic minion wave, so you really do not want to pick that fight.
The baby cage is so frustrating when you're playing Yorick versus Kennen, because if you get him inside of it, and then you can just walk out of the ultimate range and just let your ghouls go to town, it's rough.
Yep, it really, really is. That Morning Mist throwing them forward is a terrifying animation as well. Scares the crap out of me. And now Selfmade and Pyrion, they're going to be looking to set a proactive play. Vizichachi's got flash available, but not much else.
Yeah, and there's no paranoia again, but like you said, Pyrion, he's got everything.
Yeah, Pyrion's ultimate was not used. There goes the claw into the ult. Duskbringer comes out, and this should be an easy enough kill. First blood to Selfmade, and he's able to escape. That was just clean.
Doesn't even need the flash, doesn't need the paranoia, and it's Selfmade who is the primary beneficiary, and that's exactly what you want. This Nocturne needed to find the springboard. It kind of feels like Nocturne gets 2 chances, and if he doesn't make good on his first 2 ultimates, that he will just fall behind because he needs to be ahead of his opponent. He needs to have kill pressure to actually be valuable in the game, so this is a big lifesaver for Selfmade after the mid game went totally sideways.
I don't normally like referencing games that happened earlier because it's not the point of this one, but I want to see what Vizichachi can do. Now he's 0-1 in comparison to what we saw Odoamne do, who went 1-0 and then started to snowball ahead. Playing from behind, such a different game, but it is one of the strengths of the Splice squad. And they're currently down 700 gold, but they're up a Mountain Drake. So let's see how the next few minutes plays out as we're 11 on the clock.
It's also a very different responsibility as I'll hold that. How much damage? A lot of damage.
A lot of damage.
That's always a clincher.
It is so. A lot of tension when that trouble bubble hits. Another quick run of stats for you. Humanoid currently is the mid laner with the highest amount of deaths at 45. We actually put a lot of criticism his way about dying pre-15, a fair amount a couple of weeks back. Pyrion is actually the mid laner with the second highest amount of deaths at 41. So that could be influential as the game plays out.
I thought at first he meant 45 minutes. I was like, Trevor, of course he's died a lot in 45 minutes. They're very long games. Makes much more sense here. I don't think anyone's going to be dying a lot solo. If anyone is, Humanoid does have the microscope on him because of the nature of Lissandra's hard CC and the assassination potential that Selfmade has. But again, both these guys are playing for their side lanes, playing for their jungle control.
Yeah, unfortunately, Humanoid's got that cleanse available. The flash is a quarter of the cooldown remaining. And with the assistance of Selfmade and Pyrion, Selfmade's been fairly proactive in ganking. We've not seen a whole lot of Xerxes yet. There's Selfmade ganking once again. Remember, cleanse is available, but no flash. That was rinse, repeat, textbook, like you said, Frost.
I mean, I said he should be playing for the side lane. He barely stepped off of mid lane and immediately got blown up. Huge credit to SK and their vision control that really set that up. Again, all of the control wards to the river meant that Humanoid had imperfect information and just picking on the rookie. That's an inexperienced type of play.
And also, I did say Humanoid traditionally has died a lot pre-15 minutes.
Right on time.
There we go. 46 deaths, still remains the most killed mid laner in the LEC as we're on week 8. And the fact that he's now gone from the scene with a roam from Whirlid is going to allow the Rift Herald to be picked up here.
Yeah, and there's just not a lot of options. Splice can maybe peek their head in, but what they're, I was going to say, waiting for was their bot lane. But with the teleport from Vayne, the bot lane's already here.
All right, here comes Corbett, and the Rift Herald is now uncontested. Selfmade, no paranoia. Whirlib is going to be looking for a Dark Procession. If you can lock somebody in place, maybe it'll work. Selfmade's Spell Shield did not work there. And the Rift Herald is secured at the cost of a teleport.
Yeah, I forgot about the TP from Kabe. Rookie mistake from me. This guy runs TP on virtually every single champion. And used it just in the nick of time. Really nice lane swap from Splice to pick up Rift Herald.
Yeah, very, very nicely done. And with not a lot of time left before those turret plates go down, I want to see how quickly they've used it or decide to use it. Cersei's running all the way back, so not a huge amount of time. And Kobe and Noskeren, they've already done that lane swap. I'm trying to look, one turret plate down in the top lane, traded, but then Pyrian's done a good job to secure 3 in the mids.
I mean, it's a lane swap of convenience. They wanted to contest for the Rift Herald. They got there just in time with the numbers advantage. It's interesting, you know, Kabe used to run TP all the time on virtually every single AD carry. He's recently started running heal, but it felt like he was doing it out of respect to G2's bot lane, knowing that G2 were a very scrappy, fight-oriented bot lane, so he wanted more of a battle summoner as opposed to more of the macro summoner that we normally see Splyce run. So it could just be a read on Crownshot and Dreams that, hey, even though they have the Galio with the Thresh, with the teleport, that we're not going to fight you anyway.
Yeah, very confident in that 2v2 then, you know. We saw Kabe and Noskeren actually pushing very early. They got Dreams' flash at like level 3. All right, that's a lot of damage. Take a look at that Silver Bolt. Here comes the Lantern. Woo! And Dreams forced to use the Galio ulti just to save Crownshot's life. Blade of the Ruin King, Kabe, Vayne, it hurts.
Yeah, and again, Vayne is no longer just a late-game scaling monster. She is powerful at virtually every point in the game right now. And again, I was talking about this concept earlier on with Vedius. Late game doesn't mean 5 items anymore. With Splyce, it might, because we might get there. But late game really means kind of 2 items, because that's when a lot of games are decided. And Vayne sits so comfortably there.
Yeah, and that's exactly where Splyce are gearing towards. I mean, they're still down 1,300 gold. They're down 2 kills. And Go Fish, Selfmade picked them up. But he's on the Nocturne. He managed to get to level 6. He also, remember, was put behind by Xerxes Aatrox. But Frosk, I need you to give me a grade. How has Xerxes jungle Aatrox been as we've officially crested the 15-minute mark?
Frankly, a little bit invisible. I think he was mostly playing for the control, though, which makes sense. It's easy to look at the score lines and say, you know, Selfmade's got 2 kills. Xerxes sitting on nothing. So clearly, Xerxes has been jungling worse. Yeah. But his goal was just very different. It was just to disrupt and to stall and to track Selfmade while his laners played safe.
All right, Death Sentence catches onto Dreams. He actually flashes forward. Here comes the Paranoia. Dreams forced to run for his life. A lot of burst damage as the Hourglass was used. Now Selfmade stays alive a few seconds longer. Sleepy Trouble Bubble not going to find its target. That's a 1 for 2. Here comes Humanoid. Xerxes on the board as well. And Splyce take control.
Just absolutely torn apart from Splyce right there. They've got the minion wave behind them and a very low tower. It's a super easy, clean play and a snowball gold advantage.
Yeah, really nicely done. The first tower secured. It takes control of the gold game. And just as I ask about Xerxes' performance, he's involved in the team fight or the skirmish that allows Splyce to take control. It will be at the cost of him in tower, though, and we're going to see this one set up from the start.
Take another look. What was curious to me is how quickly Zoe was actually able to get there and participate in the fight, because Pyrian and Zoe are racing up through the side lanes, and I believe that Lissandra is caught by the Sleepy Trouble Bubble as she came into the fight.
Oh, Vizichachi 0-1. Not going to be able to find the kill just yet onto Crownshot, but he committed everything, including the flash. With Crownshot pushed out of the lane, there is some time to do damage on the tower. Instead, Drake number 2.
And it's normally for Splyce games, you have so much time to run those replays, to look at the long team fights, but Splyce are playing actually very quickly right now. We talked about how a lot of their champions really spike right now, and Splyce don't have to play late game. They just choose to.
And you said at the beginning of this game, which feels like a long time ago now, what did their win against G2 yesterday mean?
Wait, Trevor, that's it. The pause took so long that we're actually in 35 minutes already.
Oh, that's next level macro for Splyce. They will secure the second tower. It will be at the cost of the top outer, though, as Werleb has been able to push it down. He's still 0-0-0 on this Yorick, working towards the Trinity Force. But I do like that moment, is like, you know, you have to try to understand the best of 1 results and the impact. And Noskeren, Flay will not find its target. Here comes Xerxes, stepping forward with the Darkened Blade, and Pyrian did not follow the claw. Meanwhile, down in the bottom, a lot of damage being thrown into Kobe. He solo kills Crownshot. Didn't even see how that one happened.
He just dunked him. It's isolated. Xerxes and Noskeren, their only job wasn't to find a pick. It was to isolate the 1v1 between Crownshot and Kabe, and Kabe just took the smackdown on Kaisa.
1-0-3, 100% kill participation, and Mr. Splyce, the man of the hour. All right, let's see how the setup. I'm assuming a condemn into the wall.
I'm assuming he's going to pop ultimate to make sure that he stays in stealth longer, so Crownshot really had virtually no time to react.
That was actually beautiful. Nicely done, Kabe. Last pick Vayne, making it work.
Yeah, and again, it's on the control ward, making sure that you pop Final Hour when you're still in Fog of War, and then activate your stealth. So you're just limiting that tiny window that they have to react to you defensively.
Yeah, and what was it? Paranoia as well as Galio Ultimate Hero's entrance thrown in there. Grand entrance rather for added measure. But I'm going to go back to what we were talking about. You know, yesterday versus G2, Splice did pick up that win. It was very convincing. It was very controlled. It's actually fairly reminiscent of this game in many ways. You know, kind of slow-ish start, not really conceding anything. Picked up first blood, 700 gold lead. And of course, we got the average game time there, just for the lulz. But Splice won that game significantly early and significantly more confidently. And you can see by these plays already, they're setting up the momentum to do the same.
They've got another one.
Well, let's find out. Dreams
the hook
will get slapped, death sentence into paddle, and really easily killed by Splice. And everything lands.
It is just too easy, and Splice understanding what their win conditions are when they actually depress the tempo of the game, start playing more offensively, because again, you're still waiting around this kind of ticking time bomb of the York, who will be very obnoxious in these side lanes. So I like that Splice, they're not slowing down, they're not in cruise control, they are actively trying to force more on this game while they're strong.
It is just so refreshing to see a team in the LEC that is in the thick of the playoffs race, improving and stepping up in some of the areas we wanted them to see. And Splice, just when the going got tough, on the verge of applying pressure to Vitality. There's a defensive proto belt by Vizicachi to get out of that baby cage. There was pressure as well in this bottom lane, and the tower will be dropping. Whirlip, though, is on a mission. He's not done yet. It is still only 1,000 gold lead at 20 minutes, and Whirlip has been responsible in taking 2 towers.
And Chachi really has a lot of the responsibility for Splice in this game of not just playing the side lane, but kind of picking his moments of when he is going to look for those flanking TP plays and force the big 5v5. Because Splice can feel it. They're stronger right now. They want to force SK to fight them, but SK do have a lot of tools to try to get away from them, to not pull the trigger or to look for more picks. So Chachi needs to be on point. Okay, I'm mirroring Yorick when I need to mirror Yorick, and then I'm creating enough space that we can look for these opportunities, and when we have them, to take them.
Yeah, and yesterday, as Frost might say, was robbed of player of the game.
He was robbed.
Nomination, exactly, it's what I just said.
I just want to take the moment. Chachi, you had an incredible Renekton performance yesterday. You deserved that player of the game.
How difficult is it for Chachi in this setup? 0-1, coming up against Whirlip's Yorick, who's already putting so much wave pressure on it.
I mean, you can see that Chachi's not having a good time, and the fact that Whirlip feels so confident to flash after him whenever he gets a hold of the Kennen. That said, you still have to respect the fact that Kennen does have a lot of mobility, and if Whirlip doesn't get the burst damage earlier on from his rotation, he doesn't want to chase too far from Kennen. So I don't expect anyone to actually die here, but I do expect Chachi to team fight.
Oh, Dreams gets stunned, death sentence, chains. Come on, guys, this just looks so painful, but Dreams survives. Dreams stays alive. Vizicachi, the caster curse was thrown down. Now Kobe is unlocked, picking a fight with Selfmade, who's got the GA. Dreams goes in with the ulti, gets back up. Dreams, you cheeky bugger! He escapes with his life. That's now a kill back in reply. Dreams goes down as Comet tumbles and ducks and dives. The death sentence will not find a target, and Whirlip wants to clean this up. But Period might go down. Gets the ultimate. Comet gets 3. He tumbles again. Turns on the Whirlip. Finally goes down. Whirlip picks up the kill with the last rise. He's chasing in a North Scarron. North Scarron needs a blast. Comet will not find it. Crown shot takes him out.
I cannot wait to see the replay on that. I think the paranoia was huge because it was a choke point that Splice were trying to chase into and then didn't have the vision to finish off Dreams and got obliterated by Whirlip from the side. That said, huge credit to Kabe. I believe he picked up so much gold there. 4-1 and 3 now on the Vayne.
How did Dreams not die? He should have been killed twice.
Watching. I mean, it's just the W, the fact that they get rooted. So Pyrian right on time, zones the fight beautifully. They can't chase in, and then it's kind of a free-for-all who's going to... I can't believe Dreams goes back in and it gets out.
Such a bold call. Well, nevertheless, Kobe, I mean, he did so much work and makes this almost an even trade.
I mean, anywhere you looked on your screen, there were pretty crazy plays. The fact that North Scarron got the death sentence hook actually set up Kabe to even look for the triple key here. The Thresh had to come in just in time to save him to allow Splice to even cling anything back from the back half of that team fight.
I think that ended up being a 3-for-4, but it is still extremely close as far as the gold is concerned. There's a Mountain Drake under Splice's banner, as well as a number of damage dealers. They start the Baron, try to force SK Gaming's hands. And SK respond, but they aren't able to put any pressure on Splice right now.
But they have a limited window to do so because, again, here's Yorick being obnoxious as usual and pushing forward on the bottom side. Now has kind of his core itemization complete, so he's not only a massive dueling threat, but he will actually just shred through these structures.
And of course, I've not really drawn too much attention to itemization just yet. 2 items across the board for most here. Talked about the GA for Selfmade, Luden's Echo and Protobelt for Pyrion. Now all of a sudden up in the top lane, Whirlip is just going to get run down as Humanoid comes to help out. In the combination, they are able to pick up the kill.
Maybe didn't expect Zoe to be there?
Yeah, definitely the case. I mean, if you look at the vision, there's not enough to really play around that, but Whirlip, he's trying real hard to play the side lane game.
Anytime you just walk up, get locked underneath the tower and dive, mistakes were made.
Yes, absolutely. Pretty simple League of Legends mistake there. But I mean, it is still a close game. It feels to me like Splice should be further ahead though, for us. Like, goal difference is a case. 3 dragons in favor of Splice, but towers are even as well.
It's the execution of the team fight. So SK still have a lot of power to very quickly, instantaneously delete someone, and they do have a lot of survivability. This is a Galio and a Lissandra composition, so if you try to grab them, their ability to stall out and for everyone else to jump onto it. Speaking of jumping onto.
Okay, now a lot of damage here onto Vizichach. He's got no ultimate available. Manages to escape with the E and the flash. Still had Protobelt if he had any more threats.
But in an elongated sustain fight, so if SK are kind of like this big pick burst potential, I still give the side of sustain fights in favor of Splice.
All right, Copy's going to get locked out by that Dark Procession. Not able to chase through it, of course. And he threw down the final hour ulti just to try and chase him. But for the time being, next Dragon's not up just yet. I'm looking at Vision. This is just going to be this lane game pressure for now, as both teams are vying for control of one of the next big objectives.
And we would assume that it would be Baron. The other thing that I do want to point out is Splice's composition is harder to execute. It's much easier when you just have to stack all of your R buttons at the same time for SK. So in terms of margin for error, it is lower on SK's end for the comp.
I think it's fair, but then it also comes down to vision and picking those right fights. You can't afford to be in Whirlip's situation, out of position, overextended, and then just getting dunked by an easy trouble bubble.
Yeah, that's always going to be a case when you're against Zoe, but you're still looking at, there's so many more skill shots, lower range champions. It's about playing elongated fights from Splice, so you need to have more information or perfect information, whereas SK have so many tanky abilities, so many tanky champions, the ability to help people out with the Galio. So again, it's easier for SK.
I think that's fair, and I also think that when you look at a champion like Kennen, especially a Kennen that's not absolutely obliterating his opponent. 1-2-1, even on CS. Not the Oblivion all picked up there, and Chachi, or Spellbinder rather. I want to see how he uses this Kennen, because like you said, the difficulty of execution, burden of execution falls on Splice. And of course, one of the real pick tools is those death sentences and those trouble bubbles. Teleport is available for Kobe, as the Baron has now been started.
But they have no vision of this area, so we're looking at Humanoid to at least lay down some of the initial poke.
All right, Sleepy Trouble Bubble was out, manages to catch onto Crown Shot. The Baron's not going down particularly quickly. Kobe will be able to make it in time. Trouble Bubble goes in once again. Paranoid by sometime. Look at Pyrion. He's been zoned out. Humanoid's forced him away. Slicing Maelstrom into the pit. There's the killing instinct to the backside. Baron is picked up by SK Gaming, but at what cost? Everybody's going down. Kobe's currently untouched. Humanoid's got the first of the fight. Vizichachi gets another before he's taken out in reply. It's Crown Shot that takes him down. Kobe is going to kill SK. Selfmade and Whirlip are running for their lives. Empowered recalls. Here comes Humanoid, but he picks the wrong shot. No, that's not the blast cone you wanted.
And it is only a single Baron that gets out, but it's on Yorick. We've already seen how obnoxious he can be without the Baron buff. This is just going to empower his ability to split push. So the best case scenario for SK, if one Baron was going to get out, you wanted it on the Yorick.
How do you possibly analyze or call a team fight like this where everybody just jumps into the pit and it is a free-for-all?
I mean, for me, I was basically looking at Vayne. I know everyone's going to ooh and ah because Pyrion is going to get absolutely smashed there from the Zoe. The Chachi ult comes in and it zones everyone out, but Kave gets to walk up to this fight and basically just stand still as Vayne. She's going to push in, get locked up into the baby cage, and then immediately condemn Crown Shot into the wall and pick up all of the kills.
Locked inside.
He's like, I want out.
Oh, man. You know what? If I were Kobe, I think I would just buy a... oh, that was such a misplay. I think I would buy Rapid Fire Cannon to just try to get at least a shot. He's got Phantom Dancer instead, obviously.
Well, Phantom Dancer fits a lot better right now in
Yes.
terms of third items. This is the pretty stock standard build. As good job, Humanoid. Might have missed the final Baron kill, but you got the Pyrian out.
Man, so much damage. 6,000. Here comes Chachi. There's no slicing Maelstrom. And instead, we'll just be killing the Maiden of the Mist. And Splice will be content. They've got themselves 4 dragons to their name. They picked up the Infernal. While we're in that replay, it is still even in gold. And it still feels like Splice are winning and leading. But SK have got a lot of tools. They've got an easier to execute composition. So give me some predictions for the next few minutes. You know, where do you see SK trying to, I think, gain control of the game? That's what I want to know.
I think it's all about Pyrian and Selfmade and who is going to be their target and who they actually find. Humanoid has done a much better job kind of in the back half of the game, clearing waves and then cheating down to his strong side of the map, making sure that it's not him who gets picked out. He is pretty vital to them because they don't have any safe wave clear outside of the Zoe.
Yeah.
It's very dangerous for either a Vayne, an Aatrox, or even a Kennen to step forward and to try to clear out a wave against all of the initiation potential of SK's comp. So as long as Humanoid's actually alive, there's nothing that SK can really grab more onto the map as long as he's in the right place, right time.
All right, so, and that's something Splice are pretty good at. They do have an understanding of that, and as we're just about to hit 30 minutes, those 3 items you mentioned, Phantom Dancer for Kabe as well as the QSS, Rapid Fire Cannon for Crown Shot, Hourglasses for both respective mid laners, and obviously GAs actually for both junglers too. Selfmade is on cooldown though, and I've seen in this bottom lane, Kabe was kind of like looking for an opportunity to pick a fight with Whirlib, but the vision you can see is backing that up as well. A couple of shallow control wards from Splice. And now Whirlib, he's going to push all the way forward into 4 members of Splice. Paranoia will buy some time, but Whirlib is dead before anybody else can arrive. There is pressure on Kabe, QSS and heal and flash, and he's running for his life. He's dead! It's Crown Shot that picks him up, thanks to the killer instinct. Without Kabe, can Chachi turn around? 1, 2, another! Falling like dominoes! SK, it felt so good, but it ends so bad! Splice take the fight!
They expended so much to get into the backline for the Vayne, and not only that, but she survived for so long. And yeah, you take him down, but that's a stacked AP Kennen. That's a massive carry Aatrox, and Humanoid is hitting like a truck. There's too many damage threats.
Yeah, too many problems to deal with. And SK Gaming, I'm still on the fence about that push. Whirlib, he did have support from the team. Look at the minimap, has multiple members of SK pushing up, and they can clear so much ground thanks to their ultimate.
I think it's an interesting decision because they know that their Lissandra was spotted. So SK knew that they had been caught in the trap that they were setting up, and they thought maybe Kabe's just trying to clear this, or maybe we can burn him down quick enough to win the fight. It just is a very suspect call from SK in a larger macro sense.
Yeah, I get that. And that's something I think we've said multiple times this split. Do you think that's fair as not a criticism, but as an observation of SK Gaming's playstyle?
I mean, they're a very young team, inexperienced. You have a lot of players who have kind of been eaten up by the machine and spit out guys like Pyrian, like Whirlib, like Dreams, who have had a couple of performances but never left their impact or left their name.
Well, let's see what Splice can do now. This is the first time it feels like they're really pulling ahead. Got that gold lead. A minute to Baron, a minute to Dragon. And I've talked a lot about the Splice comp, but how does Splice win this game? I mean, they can split push with Vayne and Cannon, I suppose, but what other options do they have to unlock?
Their ability to siege is actually quite strong without Baron because they have Zoe. And this is one of the reasons why Zoe is globally so powerful. You see her in the LCK and the LPL all the time. And it's because you can walk up to structures like that. And as long as you have proper flanking vision, everyone has to back away, has to respect it. Because a single bubble lands and you lose a member.
It's quite interesting as well because then you take into consideration the short-range Cannon, melee Aatrox, short-range Vayne. So whenever you push some of those towers down, the range of Zoe actually counters some of those weaknesses of the tower pushing champions for the rest of the Splice comp. All right, deep vision setup behind the Cloud Drake. 10 seconds to Baron, no real super control for either team. And you have to feel that Splice will be prioritizing Baron. There's no pressure on Dragon, so Kabe just picks this up uncontested.
Yeah, and it's more important to start the Elder countdown because now that the Cloud Dragon will fall, you have 5 dragons now available for Splice, and they're opening up another win condition for them.
All right, Sleepy Trouble Bubble will manage to catch the Maiden, does not really matter. Humanoid was trying to pick up the additional CS point.
Uh-oh, Pyrian.
All right, let's see what
Oh, Pyrian!
Oh, that's not what you want! Get slept. Easy pickoff, and this should now set up the ability to turn and burn from Baron or an uncontested Baron. Infernal plus Mountain. Here come SK. I think this is going to be problematic.
Oh, Chachi. They don't see him. He's got the control ward.
Oh,
yes.
Oh, here comes No Scare, and the box is put down. Willem gets caught out. Trouble
Where's
bubble
the
once
cannon?
again onto the main, uncontested.
There's
Baron.
the cannon!
Here comes Chachi. He's found Crown Shot. Now Crown Shot escapes with a very cheeky killer instinct and flash. But Dreams, where are you going, buddy? Your team's not there. Dreams gets taken out. Baron secured by Splice, and even a death sentence onto the Maiden. Splice are in absolute complete control.
And it's going to get that much easier to siege now that you have the Zoe in tandem with the Baron buff. But once you have complete vision control of an area, we talked about the strengths of Zoe in sieging, it's also just control over Fog of War. She is so devastating in professional play because the teams know how to play around Fog of War. Probably why your Zoes in solo queue don't feel as impactful.
Yes, absolutely the case. You have to utilize all of those tools. Communication, coordination is key. And we caught a glimpse there, by the way, Frostcover. Little ghoulie on picture-in-picture, taking down a tower. I hear Vedius in my head saying, live your best life, Ghoul. Live your best life. For any regular viewers that saw that meme a couple weeks back, that's a shout out to you. So Splice now pushing down top lane, 5k gold up. It's been a very fun game to cast because the team fights have just been epic. Literally everybody's been involved.
To me, they look a bit like a Thunderdome. Like, two teams enter, one team exits, but everyone's just putting like a Venn diagram of murder on top of each other.
I really like that. We had Max enter the Thunderdome. In the end, though, Splice. 35 minutes, Splice activated. They have been all game, let's not kid ourselves, but we've now entered this area of the game where they've got Baron, they've got the ability to siege, they've taken down 6 towers already. It's just the inhibitor turrets left standing. And there's so many tools to play with. Corby, 4 items completed, i.e. Blade of the Ruined King, Rage Blade, Phantom Dancer, and we've seen just how impactful he is on this champion.
And I want to give a credit to Splice's vision as they're pushing up like this. Everything is warded, and they have everything warded between the 2 lanes that they're playing against. So they're making sure that there's no pockets that Lissandra or Nocturne can slip into, because that's the only way SK come back here, is if they get big flanking ultimates on multiple members of Splice.
Yeah, let's see what the 5-man stack in the top lane can do. Just brute forcing their way onto the tower. Pyrian's clenching as he takes a paddle star to the face. The inhibitor falls as well. There's still a minute left on Baron buff. And just to remind you, Splice will guarantee playoffs with this win. They will guarantee Vitality playoffs with this win. And very, very importantly, Splice join the fight for 2nd place. Vitality, if they lose to G2, be on the same wins and losses as Splice, tying them up in 2nd.
Just a very crisp, controlled game from Splice. It felt like from start to finish, they knew exactly how they wanted to play this one out. And now, their plan has come to fruition. They are fully online.
Yeah.
Where's the last stand?
Well, we're about to find out. There goes the pressure. Corby's able to escape with his life for now. Turns back around. The GA is popped. There's a Chachi with a slicing maelstrom. Has done so much work. That's 1, 2, 3, 4 members of SK are down. The ace for Splice. And they're entering the base from SK.
Into the meat grinder of Splice's composition. There was nothing SK could front right there. They had to make a go of it, but Splice, welcome to playoffs.
Welcome to playoffs. Splice join the fight for 2nd place. Two things. Beginning of this game, I said that Corby's Vayne was 3 wins for 3 games. That is now 4 wins, 4 games. Stats never lie. Second thing, for you, Frosco, what do you make of Splice's performance in week 8 after taking out G2 and SK?
I really liked the game plan from this game, especially in the early game. I think it was a great read on Selfmade as a jungle to contest his camps like that. I think it was quite risky to go for a jungler that needs so many resources and then not have the laners to back you up or to protect you getting those resources in SK's sense. I know it seems like such a small, minute point, but again, Xerxes was a big factor in that early game in making sure that he put some speed bumps or some roadblocks in front of Selfmade, taking over a game, which is the primary win condition of SK, so...
Yeah, really nicely done then. Even though it's slightly less, visually understandable. Xerxes' impact were able to pick it up. See Kobe and a lot of Splice fans here. It's giving high fives as they meet and greet. Splice are guaranteed playoffs. They have got themselves 10 wins, 6 losses as they end week 8. And if Splice can keep this level of performance going to week 9 in the playoffs, they are a threat, and they can potentially shake that moniker of gatekeepers.
I also want to give a huge shout out to Norskaren and Humanoid. It felt like when we were examining Splice closer over the last few weeks that if their mid game falls apart, what's happening? Well, it feels like their mid and their support don't necessarily know exactly where they need to be on the map. You know, when Norskaren plays Pyke, he looks flashy, but he's not where he needs to be, placing down the vision at the right time. Thresh, it was like a perfect happy medium. Norskaren was constantly with his team, shadowing underneath them, placing all the vision, setting up these clean sieges. And the guy who was sieging was Humanoid, and outside getting caught once, had a very clean game on the Zoe.
Well, clean game, clean team fight. I just want to bring up the last fight of the game. They're in the mid lane, just ahead of the inhibitor turret. Splice end up crushing and picking up the ace, but it was a last-ditch effort from SK. You can see Dreams waiting in the wings, trying to set something up, but Werlib, he got slept before it even began.
It was the only pocket of vision that SK had found. They knew they needed the team fight in the flank, and unfortunately the goal disparity spoke for itself, and really clean team fighting as well from Splice.
Oh,
they are so good at fighting front to back.
They absolutely are. And, you know, when you've got players of that caliber that rarely make those mistakes. Splice, congratulations. You are now guaranteed a playoff spot. You're in the race for second place. More results than you come in for that to get heated up. Got numbers for you, as I always do, Frosco. SK Gaming's number of scenarios where they make it into playoffs was 51% before the game. It is now down to 14.6% of remaining scenarios as SK Gaming join the Misfits tier at 7 wins and 9 losses. Let's turn our attention to positive key player of the game, Vizichachi, Humanoid, and Kobe at LOL Esports. Who are you voting for and why?
I feel like most people will vote for Kabe because he was flashy on the Vayne, but I really liked Humanoid's performance that game. I think he was quite pivotal on the Zoe, and again, outside of kind of that one early misstep around the mid lane, he was constantly stalling out whenever SK did have offense, were trying to push in. He made pivotal picks when it was needed, and he secured all of the objectives because he was landing all of his skill shots.
Yeah, for a mid laner that has died the most of all mid laners, he only conceded 1 of the 2 deaths pre-15, which is an improvement. Good job, buddy. But I like what you said. I mean, the moment you get to mid game, you get to late game, extremely reliable, extremely consistent, and was part of the reason Splice won. For more, though, we're going to chat to their jungler with Frankie.
We have to look up.
I'm joined by Xerxes. Yes, Xerxes, we do have to look up because you, my friend, are in the playoffs. How does it feel?
It's actually unbelievable because I remember prior to this week, we were thinking that we need to win 2 out of 4 games, and our schedule was actually tough because we had to play G2, Misfits, SK, Fnatic, and they're strong teams. And it was a bit stressful, but after picking the 2 week, right now I'm really happy that we're in playoffs.
You must have been feeling quite confident after winning against G2 yesterday.
Yeah, it helps us a lot. And the thing is, like, the whole week of practice wasn't going too great, and we didn't get that much practice, and it wasn't going too great. So I'm really happy with the result.
Yeah, it seems like not practicing very much seems to work for you guys, which is quite unusual. Can we talk about that first fight in the Baron pit, though? I'm really curious about what happened on comms, because it was quite funny seeing Kobe come up from the bottom lane.
Yeah, so like Kobe was supposed to match the Yorick, but we didn't realize that Yorick was already with the team. So they just started the Baron, and Kobe had to run all the way from bot to the Baron. And we kind of knew they're going to start it. And we thought that we can stall. And we did stall, but the unlucky thing is, when I went into the Baron pit, I knew that Noxian used the smite, so I could have stolen the Baron actually, but because I died in that moment, I cannot smite during the ultimate, so they just get Baron, and yeah, that's really unlucky.
Xerxes, it's been a stunning weekend for you, I have to say. I think you've had, at least in yesterday's match against G2, you had 88.9% kill participation. What is it about your comms that's so effective? You're everywhere.
I mean, to be fair, it feels really easy to play on the stage because my teammates are providing so much information for me, and they just give me the information and I just pick the play. Like Chachi says, hey, we can go top. I just go top, and that's my team. So they play a big role in that.
I do want to ask you quickly as well. Your style as a team has been described as textbook, League of Legends by numbers. What do you make of that?
I mean, we're just playing for late game every game, so... No, I'm just kidding. I mean, many people think that we are still playing for late game, but lately we found that we can actually play early game, and we are actually a good early game team, and in playoffs we're going to be even better.
Well, I can't wait to see it. 10-6 is your score. Congratulations,
Thank you.
Ersin. Congratulations to Splice. We need to head for... Are we heading for a break, production? We're heading for a short break, and then we're coming back, and we're going to see Excel versus Fnatic.
Hyperion ultimate was not used. There goes the claw into the ult. Duskbringer comes out, and this should be an easy enough kill. A lot of burst damage as the hourglass was used. Now Selfbase stays alive a few seconds longer. Sleepy Trouble Bubble not going to find its target. That's a 1 for 2. Here comes Humanoid. The death sentence will not find a target, and Whirlip wants to clean this up. But Hyperion might go down. Gets the ultimate. Carby gets 3. He tumbles again. Turns on the Whirlip. Finally goes down. And Carby, QSS, and heal and flash. And he's running for his life. He's dead. It's Crown Shot that picks him up. Thanks to the killer instinct. Without Carby, can Chachi turn it around? 1, 2, another.
Kai'Sa, we win. I want to kill Nocturne. Yeah. Kill Kai'Sa. Kill Nocturne. Focus first, focus first. Nice. Nice! Woo!
Getting at this. Well, welcome back to the LEC Spring Split. At the start of the year, we welcomed 4 organizations into the League of Legends European Championship. Origin and SK, who are returning to League of Legends, and Rogue and Excel, who are making their first forays into the highest level of competitive league. I want to take a minute to celebrate Excel and their first split in the LEC. Even before the split started, Excel showed signs of a team that dedicates itself to the long-term future in the league. Acquiring a 10-man roster, a strong supporting staff, and top-notch training facilities, Excel set themselves up for success in their inaugural split.
Back from a drastic 1-5 start. And it's the fact that it is Fnatic. Like, Fnatic have done this at Worlds before, where they came into week 2 and they just smashed expectations, but it was with a completely different roster. And I'm unsure how, you know, they keep changing out these pieces, but they're always able to be this machine that kind of print off championships.
Okay, we need to find out what's in the Fnatic gaming jersey. Like, there must be some sort of special ingredient.
What's in the water supply? I don't know what it is.
Well, something certainly has been working for Bwipo as well. I mean, this individual has been on the tip of our tongue for this entire week. Amazing. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, in the beginning of the split, he did not look like himself. At Worlds especially, he was one of the most aggressive top laners in the West, and he basically played his style, and he kind of lost it throughout the beginning of the split, where he was more defensive. He didn't really try to pick up these solo kills, and now in the second half, we see the difference. The KDA has risen a bit, but it's more about the kill and assists at 15, for example, and the gold difference at 15 that help him out.
And in extended conversations with Bwipo, he said in euphoria that he was fine taking the worst end of a matchup, going down 20 CS, because he had the confidence to trust fall onto the back of his team. You know, I can go down in this matchup because my team will get places elsewhere on the map, but it also shows the reverse side of that. Give me the carry, give me the Jarvan, give me the Aatrox, and I will blow this map wide open. And it's just crazy to think about when we're talking about the comeback from Fnatic, that we're saying Bwipo, Broxa, Nemesis, Hilly, and we're not saying one name.
Right, that's what I'm saying. I mean, this guy's been a superstar for so long. Rekkles is just not been a part of the conversation. And it's not that Rekkles is playing bad. It's just everyone else stepping up around him. Amazing.
I think he has always been a player that does not necessarily need to be in the carry role. He does it when his team needs it, but he doesn't mind stepping back and just waiting for the playoffs to come around or important moments to come around when he can be the cherry on top that can basically make the most important play and win the team the game. So I think right now that we're not talking about him is such a good sign, because Fnatic, even at Worlds last year, they didn't necessarily play around him, but he was a factor. And I think come playoffs, he's going to be really, really important again if they make it.
It's that confidence that you have the ace up your sleeve, that if it comes to the 5v5, as Bwipo said, I can default to trust because I've got the better AD carry in the 5v5 and will win it late game.
No, absolutely. And I think I'm going to have to throw a big boy question at you now.
Big boy.
It is, because, I mean, so G2, dominating for sure. But Fnatic, this second half of the split has been head-turning. There's no doubt about it.
I don't like where this is going.
I'm sorry. Are Fnatic the best team in Europe?
I'm going to start, and I'm going to say no, but I think they have the best prep in Europe right now. So what that
Elaborate.
means, in every single game, I feel like they actually come in with a plan. They understand their own identity, and they understand what they have to do versus the enemy. I think only Origin comes close in terms of that preparation coming in, where they adapt their playstyle towards the enemy. Whereas I think G2 still, in my opinion, is mechanically at least the best team in Europe.
It's that idea of kind of pound for pound talent. You still give the cut to G2, and as I go through each lane, it's very slim. And I think the biggest margin, of course, is going to be that mid lane, Caps versus Nemesis. But with the prep that Amazing's talking about, and we've seen some fumbled drafts from G2 recently where they just feel like they prioritized the wrong thing. I do agree that Fnatic, pound for pound, aren't the best team, but they could be the best team strategically and in a best of series.
And the best of series, of course, happen towards those playoffs. Fnatic are looking unstoppable, but if anyone can take them down, it's that UK Underdogs XL, the British beef. Absolutely. Now, it was Oscar Wilde-Dracos that said imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, and I'm loving your attempt today.
I was just going to say the same thing about you, Alex. You're new here. You got to understand there's only one guy allowed to wear turtlenecks. It's Yamato Cannon.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
really, it's him that we're flattering. Although, warning to Yamato. I'm, of course, Andrew Vedius Day. It's extremely hot on stage. Yamato, if you're watching, don't wear your turtleneck today. It was a bad gambit.
Well, I'm not sure what to follow from that, so I'm just going to talk about
The game,
Legends.
potentially.
XL versus Fnatic. From a stakes perspective, not a huge amount happens in this game.
True.
Fnatic would very much like to win because in an ideal world, they'd like to be challenging for top 2. And I don't think it's out of the realm of possibilities for them to do that. It's just a lot harder because they need other things to go their way in order to get into that situation.
And to be fair, the game is still very important for Fnatic to win. It's just that nothing is locked here. So while this does very much, this is very much a game that is critical for Fnatic's playoff run, it's not one that is a decider. It is not a game that is going to lock them in or out. And XL, of course, are already locked out. We're now gearing up for Champion Select. And Vedius, there's a lot of things that I'm curious to see in this draft. Now, last time we watched these teams play, Vedius, it was Fnatic beginning to rise again, whereas XL really had started to fall. And I'm curious with XL's outstanding performance versus Schalke yesterday, if they're going to be able to go toe-to-toe with Fnatic as we do enter picks and bans. Lysandra already taken away from Nemesis, the Thresh now banned out as well.
So we're looking to take some of the champions away from Nemesis. We're also seeing a bit of focus towards Hylissang, down towards the bot side of the map. What I do find interesting is the amount of respect that we're seeing thrown towards Galio right now. It might just be that Hylissang is such a talented Galio player that they don't want him to have it, but I have noticed that more and more in Europe, he has risen in popularity after it was already a very big pick over in the LCK. I have heard of a few counter picks that we haven't even seen yet on stage that hopefully we'll see over the next few weeks. But for the time being, things look pretty standard across the bans.
Yeah, not wanting to give it up, not wanting to make it too easier for Fnatic to find these nice setups and team fights, taking Lysandra and the Galio as well. Jarvan now taking out the board, of course, a very powerful flex pick in Europe. We've mostly seen it in the jungle this week, but of course historically has gone into the top lane, has proved to be a very strong contender in the era of Urgot and Sion falling from favor.
Jace ban as well. It's funny because we actually see Jace ban just a lot, but it's one of those champions where I feel like a lot of European teams don't actually want to play it, but you ban it anyway because you can't afford to give it away because of how strong it is.
Yeah, because the theoretical top end for Jace is you don't get to play League of Legends against this champion. Usually what happens is it's not amazing, you know, it's like pretty okay, it wins the lane and it doesn't really get anything greater, but we've seen those 1 or 2 games where it really absolutely destroys, and you kind of have to respect that. Now, Blippo, first pick Renekton, immediately locked in. This has been an EU special, an incredibly powerful pick with the Conqueror changes for a multitude of reasons, but I'm just honestly surprised with Red Side to see them lock in a top lane pick this early.
The thing is, because of Jarvan and Jace being banned, I think Karthus just becomes the next, Renekton becomes the next strongest top laner. We have seen a couple of counters in the form of Olaf. Aatrox is a skill matchup that we even saw from Whippo yesterday. And basically you want to play lane dominant champions into a Renekton. If you want to stand a chance of being able to beat him, and then hopefully you can outscale him later on into the game. But if he ever gets a lead, he becomes a massive terror, and then we see that Aatrox locked in as well. So maybe expect wanting to have that matchup against Whippo, who ended up winning it yesterday against Solas.
And of course, with Sejuani already locked in, we can feel reasonably confident that it is not going into the jungle. The Alistar now as well. Locked in on the side of XL, and I like that Expect is willing to take this matchup. He was, of course, one of the first adopters of the Renekton in the LEC, has had some incredible numbers on it, even in his game yesterday. So good to see him take the other end of the matchup, and now going to find out what Fnatic will round out the first half of their draft with.
Hylissang on Brawl. Not really a surprise, something he played a lot of in the first half of the split when Fnatic were in their slump. They really started to turn things around when he played more of the Rakan and the Galio. But given Fnatic have been performing very well recently, they're comfortable putting him back on a champion that perhaps less of a playmaker, but offers a lot in terms of utility for the team.
And of course, it was the nerf Rakan that Hylissang brought out in their last matchup, Excel versus Fnatic, to help win the game, to kick off a lot of those early game fights to help Fnatic win in the end. We'll see if he can have a similar impact with a less playmaking-focused champion as we enter the second ban phase. Reckless's Tristana taken away, the Cassio removed from the hands of Jeskla, or Special, and the Aurelia as well.
The champion I want to bring your attention to right now is the Kalista. It's something that I feel we haven't really seen Reckless play throughout the majority of his career. I'm sure there are a couple of examples of it, but it's not a champion that's really stood out to me in his hands. Whereas for Jeskla, I believe he did play earlier this split, and with the Alistar already locked in, I think it could be a very good pickup for XL if they wanted to do it. And then Fnatic right now, I think that they want to try and save their mid lane pick for last so they can try and get a good matchup against Special.
And see what Excel are going to opt for. We'll, of course, have to blind pick at least one of these matchups. Still waiting to see 80 carries on either side. And as you mentioned, Vedius, we kind of expect to see Reckless lock his here. The Sivir, of course, is available if he wants to go into it, but has a notoriously bad matchup into the Alistar. So the Vayne now coming out.
Now that's war. You know, fans used to just, whenever it was Reckless's Vayne, that was like a European's dream. Back in the day, he was very well known for these high mechanically intensive champions because he was the mechanical god in Europe. Since then, we haven't really seen much of his Vayne other than when he's looking to have some fun. But perhaps they're the ones expecting the Kalista, and he believes that this can be a pretty good matchup to it. But there's the champion we were talking about.
And I feel like the second you lock in the Vayne, you're telling the enemy team you don't get to pick Kai'Sa here because it's such a strong matchup into that. And they kind of force them into the Kalista. And you do wonder if that's what Excel wanted already. We're going to see what Jeskla and Mystiques can do with this champion option.
I do feel like that you could go for a blind pick LeBlanc right now. I think with the Lissandra taken off the board, she's one of the better champions available in the current matchup. But Zoe, see, this is my issue with the Zoe is that there are more answers to this champion than I believe that there are for LeBlanc. But overall, she is very strong in the current meta. Very, very popular over in the LCK. The problem is I just think Fnatic have a lot of options to be able to deal with it. Orianna being one of them. I think Yasuo is another one. And it's a champion they could even afford to go for because they do have the Karthus in the jungle as well.
I want to see Nico! Now going to go into the mid lane in the hands of Nemesis. We had heard all about the bot lane Nico. Everyone on Reddit was complaining about it. But now we're going to see it in the mid lane. And I do wonder what the build, what the options are going to be here. Of course, we initially expect full AP, as you do when you read the kit. But AD Nico has seen a lot of success. Team would have magic damage with Karthus in the jungle as well. But we now see the timers counting down. We will, of course, luckily for us, the Excel composition, we kind of got that figured out. We got the Aatrox on the top side, Sejuani. Rest of the comp rounding out, coming together. But Nico, an interesting addition for this Fnatic composition.
Now, at the beginning of the day, we did talk about on-hit Nico and how it can work in pro play. Just having a look through some of Nemesis's match history, and he has been playing some Nico mid with the on-hit build. Ooh. It does do a lot of magic damage, and when you have a Vayne, Renekton, and a Karthus as well, it's not like that they were lacking, so they will bring some mixed damage should he go for that in the mid lane, but typically a very lane-dominant champion. We'll talk a little bit about it once we actually get into the game, but overall from a composition standpoint, things are looking pretty exciting for Fnatic because they have a lot of, they have strong mid lane, if this is the 80 on-hit Nico. They have a Renekton up towards the top side of the map as well, which means that the Karthus should be relatively safe, and he does have a couple of lanes that he can look to play around if he wants to as well. Bot lane is a little bit more of a farm fest, with the Vayne having to play a little bit more defensively. But they have a lot of early game options on the side of Fnatic, so I'm expecting to see a bit of aggression from these laners from Fnatic.
And honestly, Vedius, I just want to see what form of Excel is going to show up today if we're going to get this close matchup, or if Fnatic are going to continue their rise up the standings. Fnatic fans here to support their team. XL versus Fnatic. XL, of course, on the blue side. Fnatic on the red. And Vedius, you talk about these compositions. I love it. Aatrox into the Renekton. Jungle, not as concerned. Mid lane, also hype. Bot lane, we've got Vayne, Reckless's Vayne, nonetheless, against this Kalista. And I just want to see how these matches fold out, because I just, outside of the Karthus, I expect a ton of action here. And Vedius, you talked about on-hit Nico. Well, Dorn's Blade might give us some early indications.
So, if our observers could just hover over the mid lane matchup, I'm really looking forward to talking about it, because the thing about Nico is what you'll notice is that she will mainly put points into her W and her E. All of the damage from on-hit Nico comes from maxing that W, which Dracos, you can help me with the name on that one, I'm sure.
Yes, I absolutely can, but it's Shape Splitter.
Shape Splitter, there you go. So it does have other functionality. It has everything outside of the passive, but that doesn't really matter. All you really care about is the passive. And basically, the fun stat that I like to throw out is that once she hits level 9, and once it is max rank, you get 170 bonus flat magic damage off the back of that, just from getting points in the levels, right? And when you complete the Rage Blade, and you have a fully stacked Rage Blade, you hit that every second auto. So just off a single item, she does a lot of early game damage.
Oh, now we're going to see the level 1 play coming out. Braum, of course, incredibly strong in that level 1. The stun already coming in from the concussive blows. Now Mystique's is in trouble. The flash forward. First blood for Reckless's Vein. They're going to look for another one as well. The blast cone sends them over the wall, but they just get packed along with them. Kadril going to need to get through the gate. Are they going to commit the flash for it? Reckless goes for one more auto, but has, of course, already burned his and will not be able to follow up further. But Broxah gets the red buff and a beautiful start for Fnatic.
So I wasn't expecting the level 1 invade. I was all about talking about this really cool new Nico build, and then Fnatic end up finding First Blood going in the hands of Reckless on the Vein as well. They get the flash out from Kadril, they get the flash out from Mystique's, and Fnatic already off to a commanding start. We said they'd have a strong early game from their 2 solo laners. This is a great way to have a strong early game onto your AD carry as well.
And to get the Karthus rolling, 2 camps up while the Sejuani has not even started that jungle clear. They're going to need to send support.
At this rate. You can see that Broxah has actually moved up towards the top side.
If he actually goes in to contest this blue buff, this is going to be the ultimate disrespect start. It looks like Kadril will get this one. But note, this is a charitable blue buff. Brox chooses not to take the risk. Could absolutely go in there and maul Kadril.
He also has no priority top. You can already see the Aatrox starting to move down. Therefore, the respect is being shown by Broxah. Even though he has a level up, he knows that he will not be able to win that 1 versus 2. So just going to back away from that one. Just be happy with what he's got. So Kadril will secure his first buff of the game.
And falling behind in this game right off the bat feels so bad for itself. Because Kalista is normally a champion we look at early to mid game to really dominate, losing out. And you're going up against 2 champions, Vedius, who are basically the same, although we'll hold that thought. So you do get a little action on the top side. Whippo just extending the trade, using the animation cancel there on the back end of that Conqueror to make his way out.
So I'm going to drag us back to the mid lane, because the early game action has been great, but you can already see Nemesis off to a phenomenal start, building up a 12 CS lead against Special. And this is a really obnoxious thing about Nemesis. I'm going to have a very quick look and see. He currently has no points in his Q, as I would expect. He's only got points in his W and his E. And what's really obnoxious is if he ever lands the E on you, which is that little root thing that goes through minions. If it passes through more minions, then it can be an empowered root and it can last for a really long time. Then he basically gets a huge amount of damage off onto you. And ooh, we actually have a flash in from Mystique, but...
Immediate use of the Shape Splitter, though, for the stealth, just to make sure the point and click of the Headbutt Pulverize cannot connect.
But basically, Nemesis just clears minions really, really fast, just from his auto attack. So it forces a mage like Zoe to get pushed under the tower a lot early on, and that's where this huge CS discrepancy is starting to develop.
We're taking a lot of damage here, though, just to walk under tower. Now they're going to fish for the dive, though, as Broxah is here, but we're going to heal up as much as he can with the Cold of Meek. Oh! Goes down in the end! Caster minions, and the cannon, the ultimate homies, and Broxah has to be careful. He's out of mana, expect. Doesn't have the cooldowns to chase here, is respecting the red buff. Rarely do we see a Karthus auto attack be the decider, but that absolutely was it.
So, a couple of important things to notice here is that Whippo actually doesn't lose too much on this because the entire minion wave ends up falling to the tower. So while Expect will get that kill, Whippo is going to deny a lot of XP from Expect and just a lot of base gold. As the crowd being very animated today, it seems Aatrox. Aatrox? Dracos. That's the name.
Yeah, whatever. Hey, I'll take it. Aatrox is a cool champion. We got it. So, Vedius, the thing that I want to touch on when we look at these two teams that I think just makes this comp feel so nightmarish to play against is we have basically Vayne in the bot lane and essentially AP Vayne in the mid lane. Like, they're both going to build this Rage Blade. They're both going to proc it every 2 hits, and they're just going to obliterate you. Nemesis is going to do magic damage. Reckless is going to do true damage. And it feels like Kalista, who we would normally say, ooh, sustained team fights, great for Kalista, lots of auto attacks, is looking down the worst situation possible, but now they're trying to change that. Bot lane coming through. Reckless now on the back end of a bad trade. Looks like he will get taken down here. The heal does come out. Jessica could just get stunned up here. The auto's coming in. Reckless is still alive. I cannot believe it. He is going to go down the edge. Jessica on the edge of death. Hylissang gonna get that that one, and that is the second kill courtesy of minions to go down this game.
So I love the fact that Fnatic committed to that 2 versus 2. The fact that Reckless had no flash meant that if he tried to run away, he wouldn't have been able to get anything off the back of it. So at the very least, he's able to trade 1 for 1, meaning that it doesn't end in disaster. But you've got to respect the early laning phase of a Kalista and an Alistar. That's what Jessica and Mystique's tried to leverage. They find themselves at least 1 kill. The Kalista gets it for herself. And that means that the disparity between the 2 AD carries should now be equalized.
And of course, using that brief window of opportunity where Reckless still did not have the flash up and available from the level 1 to find that punish. So well played by the side of Excel. Good to see their bot laner at least keeping things even on the bottom side of the map. We're going to see where Kadril will put his attention in the minutes to come. For now, he is still getting out-cleared by Karthus, kind of as expected, such is the nature of the champion. But hoping to find more impact from the Sejuani, especially as we get closer and closer to level 6.
So I want to bring our attention to the minimap right now and just the differences in supports. Mystique's, he immediately goes towards the bot lane. He wants to be assisting his AD carry, whereas Hylissang does what he always does once he's level 4, roam immediately through mid. There's nothing that he can really do or offer to his AD carry at this point in time, so instead he just roams through the river. Maybe he can find some wards, maybe he can drop a ward for himself, whatever, but he realizes that there's more that he can do on the map outside of just running bot.
Whippo in trouble though, World Ender now coming out. Whippo can look for an empowered heal or a stun, does use the Cold to Meek and gets level 6 just in time. Kadril has to respect this. Whippo can look to double dash through the creeps. Has the Conqueror stacked, will now fall off. Is just going to back off here, but expect burning a lot in that exchange. The level 6 coming in clutch to keep Whippo alive.
Good stuff there from Expect, though. You can see that after getting that early kill, he's not slowing down with the aggression. And the really important thing about the Aatrox versus Renekton matchup is that you don't want to be hit by the full combo from Expect. If you do, you're going to lose that trade. And normally Renekton has the mobility to be able to slice and dice away from it. But if he ever uses it, that's the opportunity that Expect will use to try and come out ahead in those 1 versus 1s. But even after the death we talked a little bit about in terms of farm, Whippo and Expect actually at very even points. So Whippo not quite at the disadvantage that Soaz was yesterday in this matchup, even though he's a kill down.
Yeah, the dominance coming in. Not quite the same, but good to see Whippo holding his own to a certain degree, but Expect still able to find an advantage here, and we'll see if he can continue to snowball. Whippo, of course, a very strong point for Fnatic yesterday, no doubt the strongest point in the early game. How Fnatic play without this, constant source of pressure, and will be interesting to see.
So now we're at a point where level 6s are starting to come through across the board. Reckless has now hit it. Broxah coming very close. He will now secure it. And we actually see a lot of vision invested towards the bot side of the map for Fnatic. They want to allow Reckless and Hylissang to play more forward in the lane. They know they have priority mid, and so they set up all this vision to allow for this roam to happen. Leverage the level advantage that you have, and double Reckless appearing in the bot lane. Any European bot lane's worst nightmare.
Now it's a Whippo too. Of course, changing shapes left and right here. For Nemesis debating on which one is the most threatening. Will return back to the mid lane.
It's back to Reckless.
Backstep there. And not afraid to trade here. And this is a difficult lane for Special, and you mentioned earlier. You can't stand behind the creeps. If you stand in front of the creeps, you get auto-attacked. It's hard. It's hard being a Zoe here.
It's also just mages in the early game against anything that can just auto-attack through the minions. There's very little that you can do about it. So you just gotta kind of suck it up. Meanwhile, Whippo and Expect continuing to trade up towards the top side. Ooh,
now comes in the stun right into the turret. Jessica taken down. Mystique's gonna be in trouble here. Level 5. No ultimate there to save the day. Hylissang goes down in the end to make it a 2-for-1, but Fnatic destroying the bottom side of the map.
Hylissang doing what he often does, sacrificing his life for the betterment of his team. That allows Reckless and Broxah to pick up their kills, and Fnatic continue to snowball this early game. 2.5k is the advantage now, but Kadril looking for something up top.
Oh, Expect going to be forced to use the ulti here. Karthus will proc it. Whippo now needs to make a decision. Kadril's coming in on the backside. He's going to need to dodge the ulti, but no chance. Perfect use of the animation cancel from Kadril to land the point-blank ulti to keep his top laner alive.
Well, a bit of trading happened in the mid lane. Broxah coming to help out his mid laner Nemesis. Mystique now the one making the roam towards the mid part of the map. Will not be able to find anything off the back of that, but kills being traded across the board. And the fact that Whippo goes down is still an advantage for Expect. He's now sitting at 2-0-0, which is very good for him. But the problem for Excel is that this Vayne is just going to continue to get stronger and stronger now at a 25 CS advantage in favor of Reckless.
Yeah, and if we look at the top of the screen and you just put both your hands over these gold numbers, you see 4-4 and you're pretty excited. You take your hands away and you look at the gold and you go, oh, I see kills are even, but that is a 2K gold lead in the early game for Fnatic. You can see Nemesis just solo in his lane, not going anywhere else, has already built up a 300 gold lead for himself. Brock's obviously monstering in the jungle, and Reckless, as you already mentioned, 1K advantage for himself. Some of that does get balanced out as Jessica will be able to grab what appears 2 plates here on the bottom side, but definitely not enough to recoup what is a massive early game deficit. Only 10 minutes in, seeing something this big. Pretty much, you know, exclusively from farm and tower plating is an impressive sight.
And a lot of it comes off the back of that level 1 play from Fnatic. Something we heard about this team very early on in the split was that their early game and their level 1s were not as good as they used to be. Now that they've refined that strategy, they seem a lot more confident, and they're able to find these early game leads, which is where a lot of their wins have been coming from over the last few weeks. And they set up Reckless for success. He's doing a fantastic job. And now that X-Special has a couple more levels under his belt, you can see this match is getting a little bit harder as Nemesis gets poked out of lane.
Absolutely. Good, though, that they might be able to get a little more pressure down on the Nico. You can see the Blade of the Rune King going to be the first item coming in from Nemesis. Of course, really no AD scaling in the kit, but not concerned, as the W scales so well with attack speed, as you've already mentioned. Roxanne now going to make his way to the bottom side. Top lane continues to be a point of action. We got to keep our eyes on Jessica. Mystique's looking for the stun. Hylissang perfectly tanking here off to the side. They've taken down the AD carry once again. No chance for rest from Jessica in this game.
Surprised that they can pull off so many dives so successfully. No support is coming out from the side of XL. Cadrill is just trying to play towards the top side of the map because he has no pressure in the mid lane. It enables Fnatic to constantly get vision towards the bot side, and that means that Jessica and Mystique, they're just pretty much left to their own devices, and when that happens, Fnatic constantly capitalize.
And it's doubly good for Fnatic in this game, although Mystique's now looks like he might get just taken down here. Yeah, Brock's going to go. The killing spree there, taking down the cow. Just absolute domination on the bottom side of the map continues to be the story. And when you look at Excel's game yesterday, you know, Jessica was a huge strong point versus Schalke on that Cassio. Him and Mystique's looked incredible. You looked at that guy on Thresh, you were stunned this was his first game on a big stage. But today it's a very different story where Fnatic are willing to commit the resources to just shut these guys down.
Well, we got to go back to the draft in order to talk more about that, Dracos, because remember the Thresh was the first ban that came out from Fnatic, showing that respect to Mystique. And then what have they done? They've split the mat up. They utilized the pressure they had mid to separate Mystique and Jessica from their jungler, and then they've just attacked it with the early lead that they got from that level 1 play. So Fnatic came in with a very clear early game plan, and they've been able to execute upon it very clean.
And now we're going to see the Herald Summit on the bottom side. Excel, knowing that there is nothing more for them on the bottom side of the map, just want to get out of this laning phase, want to use the Herald to break down this tower plating before it expires. We'll get a hefty chunk of gold put back to their pockets, but Fnatic have already read the play and are going to continue forward as Special. This is absolutely chunked out in the mid lane.
Nemesis forced to retreat as Expect shows up, and he was the player I wanted to talk about next, but it seems I won't have time as XL are continuing this push in the bot lane.
Whippo doing what he can to hold on to this tower. If they commit for the dive, though, Hylissang is here, has his ultimate up and available in just a few seconds. Whippo taking down the Herald. The second tower will not fall in favor of XL as Reckless is getting solo gold. 2 tower plates already going over to him. 320 in his back pocket. Oh, a third one too. Vedius, this Vayne is getting so fed so quickly. Excel going to commit for the play. Hylissang now throwing down the ultimate, trying desperately to disengage. Whippo has so much health here. Conqueror has now been activated. The healing fully online. Expect here desperate to get something back. There's the card that's ultimate, and there is no hope left. Just deleting members, making it a 1-for-1 as Whippo finally falls.
Considering XL's committed 4 members to get that dive, the fact that Fnatic find a 1-for-1, might even be 2-for-1 as Nemesis flashes in and finds another kill. Definitely not worth it for XL. Fnatic will even extend that by securing a tower in the top lane. More gold goes into the pockets of Reckless. Jeskla falls further and further behind, and it feels like that Fnatic have a firm grasp over this early game.
They absolutely do, and the card is only continuing to get stronger. Special going to try to get something back here. Does he have enough damage? Oof. Burning slowly. Corrupting Posh ticking. Broxa, no camp there for him to smite, but he will make it out in the end. So close to death in that exchange.
Broxa flashing away almost made it worse for himself because he increased the distance from him and the paddle staff from Special. Fortunately, it wasn't quite enough damage. With only the Lunes completed, Special couldn't quite find that kill. We'll at least get the flash out from Broxa, but I don't think it's going to hurt Fnatic too much. They have control pretty much over the entirety of the map.
Ooh, Special. Using a stolen flash there. Try to get some damage down on the Whippo, but Whippo very comfortable just to keep pushing forward in this lane. A lot of healing for Renekton. And Vedius, when we used to talk about Karthus right at the start of the season, when no one was really sure what was going on and why this champion was in the jungle, we talked about level 11 and that terrifying point where Karthus has double magic pen items and level 2 of ultimate. Now, Brox is level 9, but he does have a 10-stack Dark Seal and both magic penetration items. Ooh. So for me, if I'm Excel, I'm just going to assume I'm at 50% health for the rest of the game.
That's quite a safe assumption. Ooh, okay, thought he would actually try for a kill there, but just a bit of a trade back and forth. But you are correct. I love that point. Dracos Broxer has been picking up a lot of the kills that happen down towards the bot side of the map. He's the one leading with the gold bounty right now. And this is actually a really interesting way of seeing Karthus played, because typically you just want to power farm, you just want to get to those core item spikes and just get as much gold as possible. But that's not to say that you can't gank. You just need strong laners to gank, right? You need that damage so that you can help follow up, provide that wall of pain, and just kind of chip away alongside with them. You typically don't expect to go to the Vayne lane, though. Very a Fnatic classic, I would say. I was expecting much more around the Renekton lane or maybe the Nico lane, but hey, you know what? If your Vayne gets first blood and there are no summoners bot, why not? Why not? Just commit.
And so far working well. Of course, Reckless on his way to the Rage Blade. A similar story for Nemesis, the Nico in the mid lane. And the bounties just keep stacking up on the 3 strongest members of Fnatic. Whippo, of course, not left on an island, but definitely put a little down and out in this matchup. Still has done well for himself. XL going to try to fire back with some towers of their own, but most likely are poised to give up this bot tier 2 as the teleport has now been committed from Whippo. I think he's going to take the fight here. Of course, Cadril with the ultimate available can threaten. Reckless taking a lot of damage there, but once again, the Karthus ulti being available does make it a lot harder to commit to these big plays.
So Reckless has the red buff, and he has spell lifesteal rather. So I think he intentionally took the damage to keep the minions alive there, so that Fnatic could continue the siege. I actually like the decision making there from Reckless, as Fnatic look to continue the push, while Jesper, at the very least, gets 1 return tower on the top side of the map.
But we went from talking about a game to how do XL trade objectives to how do XL get literally anything. Because moments ago it was a 2K gold lead. That was very large for 10 minutes. Well, we're looking at 17 with EDS, and we're about a 7K gold lead. This is nightmare fuel. And at this stage, with Spear of Shojin steadily getting closer and closer for the Renekton, that's going to make the matchup against Aatrox so much easier. Even one of the stronger points on the map, like Expect, has to start worrying about how all this gold is going to make his life difficult. Nemesis, clever use of the Shape Splitter there. Does sidestep the ulti as well. Insult to injury.
Frustration on the face of Cadril as he misses that one. Nemesis, very speedy as well. That's the one thing that can be overlooked, is that when you proc that extra auto damage on the Nico, you actually get a second of bonus movement speed as well. So you have a surprising amount of mobility off the back of this champion. And she can be very obnoxious, especially in the early game. She does fall off later, that's the bright side. So you do have to play very early focus, but of course, Fnatic still have the Vayne as late game insurance alongside the Karthus should things go awry.
Very true, and I think one of the most irritating things it seems like against playing this matchup for Zoe is if you ever throw Sleepy Trouble Bubble, she just pushes W and says, here, my clone will block this. I will throw this in front of the one way you have to guaranteedly actually land a skill shot.
And now, seeing as we have a tiny bit of downtime, for those that might not be familiar with what like an on-hit build means and like actual on-hit, with Blade of the Ruin King, every single hit that you do deals 8% of the target's current health as bonus physical damage. You then have Nico's W that does bonus magic damage every 3rd hit, which can be changed to every 2nd hit once you have a fully stacked Rage Blade. And you have Press the Attack, which means that once you've got all 3 stacks on top of them, you do, I believe, 6% more damage as well. So you can see how all these things combined together with a lot of attack speeds can be very obnoxious and do a lot of damage once you've got these core item builds complete.
And the obnoxious thing especially is that the base damage for Nico is so high, and the percentage damage for Blade of the Ruin King is so high. So there's not, that doesn't really feel like there's a good way to itemize Vedius. It feels like, oh, this champion is fed, I will die. I will never, I cannot build a single item in the game. I will build Gargoyle, Stoneplate, Callista, and survive.
You can go the ninja helmet thing.
Adaptive helm.
Adaptive helm. That does
Ninja
help.
helmet thing, I like it.
That does help a lot against Nico.
Reckless. Looking for the big plays. Broxah desperate to steal the glory away, and he is going to do so. Alistair will quickly sneak into the corpse of Callista before running for his life.
The last dying wish of Jesper.
Nico. Special now trying to buy time, but Broxah is here as well. Now that Hylissang with the shot over the wall, Special goes back. And they're just going to delete that Zoe.
Nemesis almost finding a solo kill onto Special. If it weren't for the jungler, he might have gotten away with it. But fortunately, the rest of the Fnatic show up as well to assist. And this is really just clinical from Fnatic. They're slowly pushing their lead in. They could start a Baron now if they wanted to, but the big risk of that is that's the one big window back into the game for XL. They still have a very strong Aatrox. Expect still level 12, has the Black Cleaver completed, and is looking very comfortable right now.
Absolutely is. Spear of Shojin, though, completed on the opposite side. And Betty, as we look at the standings, we have to remember kind of the stakes here. We talked about it. Nobody locks from this game, but XL right now, we're expecting them to play Spoiler. Wondering if they could play Spoiler to Fnatic as well. But Fnatic showing this kind of dominance and potentially moving themselves up the standings, taking on the higher spot in the playoffs is going to be very, very important. Of course, you know, 4, 5, 6, not the biggest deal. But if they can somehow move into that third place spot in the games to come, that's a very big deal.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those situations as well where if you're a team in playoffs, I think the team that you want to avoid is probably Fnatic.
Oh, absolutely.
Given that they are the best performing team so far in the second half of the split.
XL fans.
Oh. I was trying to figure out what they were saying. I heard let's go.
I heard XL. I'm sorry, guys. It's really hard to hear you through XL. Yes, I'm getting thumbs up. Yes, visual cues. Thank you, audience. They're not out yet, dear audience.
No, Expect is the guy we're looking at. He's coming in from the flank.
Hold him back. There's a lot of damage. Of course, the there's 2 Banes. I joked about it earlier, but now there's actually 2 Banes.
You steal the auto attack animation.
Yeah.
And the base movement speeds. Yeah.
Is that an improvement? I don't know
no,
enough.
It doesn't make a difference. You just steal their attack. You don't become the champion, right? Just you don't get.
No. I don't mean stats. I forgot that because attacking a champion breaks it, right? Auto attacking a champion.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, could you, if like you could choose like an Ari's auto attack animation? Hold that thought. We're gonna get the fight kicked off. Cable doing his best to disrupt, but he immediately gets deleted. Whippo buying as much time as he can, but so far it's the 1-for-1. Mystique's looking for the flank on the backside, but Reckless just tearing through that health bar. True damage. He doesn't care about that damage reduction. Expect next on the list. That's a triple for Reckless. Where's the Penta gonna go? Broxy says, I'm gonna try to take this one away from you. Is not going to push any further. Not looking for the glory play, but ooh. Special firing back.
There you are. Reckless Vein mechanics. Many people are probably going to be happy to see that back. Triple kill goes in the hands of Reckless, and Fnatic now make their way towards the Baron XL. They wanted to try and find a fight, but unfortunately it did not quite go their way.
And the fight has to go perfectly because it is 23 minutes into the game. Fnatic moving their gold lead up higher. They're waiting for their teammate to respond to make sure he gets the Baron. That is how uncontested they are in this pit, and it is 11K gold lead for Fnatic.
So let's see how this fight starts off. Mystiques is on the flank looking for a potential dive onto the backline. Cadril gets there, Mystiques is too late, while Whippo zones 3 members away. But even though Whippo dies, it doesn't matter, the damage is already done. Reckless is too strong, Nemesis on the backline is strong as well. And here what I see is Broxah setting his teammate up for the pentakill. For Reckless, he didn't want to commit to the dive, and so he does not go for it.
And the thing about it, Betty, is you're in this awkward spot where if you set him up for the pentakill, you're his best friend ever. But if Reckless went in there and autoed twice, I think Broxah would have gotten the kill, and they would have hated each other, and the season would just end at that point. You can't recover from that. You just heard Odo earlier today. That's not something you come back from.
It's true. Having a pentakill stolen from you is the ultimate betrayal.
Hylissang, I've seen this one before, he says. Can't steal the death push from us.
Hylissang is a whole level above both of those members right now.
Here comes Vayne number 2. Huge movement seeks Sarah on the shapeshifter. Whippo's on the backside as well. That is going to be one dead Callista. Cadril just next on the menu. His health bar is irrelevant to this Fnatic lineup. They're going to break through the tier 2. They're going to look to break through the base. Expect doing what he can to get something back, but there is not going to be anything that can stop this Fnatic lineup.
Crikey, that was one big croc that came in from behind, and unfortunately for XL, they didn't have the training to handle it. Fnatic find the collapse. They're going to find an inhibitor. They may even find the game, Daniel Dracos.
That's a sleepy Braum, ready to block some skill shots. Slowly but surely, Fnatic are breaking through the base. XL looking to find the upset, now looking to just be a speed bump on Fnatic's path to playoffs. Nemesis firing back, Karthus ulti now coming in, but did not, did target Expect. The animation looking a little weird there. That's going to be the win for Fnatic as they move closer to their playoff goals.
Great level 1 from Fnatic, really set the stage. The moment that Reckless got that first blood, both solo laners were abandoned, and Broxah just said, all right, I guess we'll camp this lane.
It's kind of like pick a card, you know? Where do you want to go? Once you get a first blood on the vein, it suddenly becomes an option. More ways to play, of course. Papa Youngbuck there in the back, often praised for his level 1s on the team. Now seeing some of those come to light. And you got to feel, you do not expect to get invaded by the Karthus at level 1. You expect him to be the safe jungler.
Frustration on the face of Expect. Even though XL cannot qualify for play. Oh, now he's smiling. I'm getting very mixed reactions right now from Expect.
It's an emotional roller coaster. I think we've all, you know, he looks at that game and he goes, I played my lane, I was set up for success, and he found that success to a certain
Maybe he wishes he could have done more. That is a common mentality that many of our pro players have. But overall, I do think Expect has had a very solid split, but it was always going to be an uphill struggle. Fnatic have only lost one game in the second half of the split. They have looked the most dominant team so far. Fnatic right now confused. Too many fans require hand high fives.
There's a debate. Can they walk in front of our camera? Can they not walk in front of our camera? Security man says no. Bwipo said yes and snuck past. He's a rule breaker, that Bwipo. Of course, let's take a chance, Vidius. We can look back at some of those highlight moments from this one, because it was, at the end of the day, very much a highlight reel for Fnatic.
Yes, and so this is where the level 1 started. Hylissang set the play up. Braum very strong at these early levels. Feel like Mystique's probably should have flashed a little earlier. And now we get to see more of this action happening towards the bot side. The key thing to note is Reckless level 6, Brox at level 6, and just look at the vision on the minimap towards the bot side of the map. You can see it's entirely in control of Fnatic. They split the map, meaning that the jungler from XL was there. Rather than backing away, they think they can make this outplay, and they cannot pull it off.
This next play is really cool, but I do want to point out that Hylissang did use the animation cancel E Ulti W on Braum. Something rarely used because it is highly impractical in a lot of cases, but there it was so sick. And ladies and gentlemen, I don't usually say wow Braum mechanics, but wow Braum mechanics. That's one of my favorite tricks. Never use it because it wastes your most important ability, the Unbreakable. But in that one tower dive, it was so clutch.
Cool. Fun facts about support. I had no idea that you could even anti-cancel on Braum.
Would showed it to us last year. He actually pantomimed it on Euphoria, but we obviously didn't understand what this meant, so he had to make a Twitch video. It might still be on his Twitch account if you guys want to watch
All right, fun fact. Today I learned. There you go. I hope you all learned a lot today. We got to see the mid lane Nico. Okay, we got to see the on-hit Nico. I was not expecting it to be in the mid lane. A lot of players have told me that you can flex it mainly between top and bot, but today Nemesis showcased that it can also go mid. Very lane dominant, very revolving around these two core items. And while Nico wasn't the star of the show, hopefully we'll get to see more of it over the next few weeks.
I really liked it. It seemed like a good matchup into Zoe. I want to see what else it can do, what its limits are.
And it gets stronger next patch as well.
Oh, with a 3-second root? Max rank goes to the creeps, 3-second root. Ladies and gentlemen, it is Nightmare Morgana. Creeps will not save you.
Yeah, they actually don't. It's, oh, God, terrifying. Got to shout out Broxer as well, 8-0-5 on the Karthus. And Reckless went 5-1-8. So when you're kind of looking at player of the game...
And that's a good point.
Infinity KDA versus a 13 KDA.
And that's something you guys got to decide, because we do have Reckless, Nemesis, Broxer. They're all fighting to become Kia player of the game, and they need your vote. So be sure to head over to @LESports on Twitter. Quick reminder, the scoreline, 7-0-5 for Broxer, 1-0-6 for that Nico. From Nemesis...
Well, he was 8-0-5. 8-0-5.
8-0-5.
And then
oh, this is a replay. That's my bad.
Yeah.
There we go. That makes a lot more sense. But the one death from our boy Reckless, does that take it away? That's the question you need to ask yourself.
You guys have to decide. Because we can't do it for you. That's not our jobs.
No, we can't. But to get more insight on Fnatic's win, here is Frankie with their top laner.
Hello, Bwipo. You are very happy right now, and I don't blame you, to be honest. How does it feel to win yet again?
I mean, honestly, I don't feel like I participated in the victory here, so it feels good to win, but I feel like I was more of a sore thumb this game than anything.
What? But you've been having a great few games. I mean, your form is steadily improving week on week, Bwipo.
Yeah, and then it kind of...
Oh, well, I like a little bit of honesty, but I'm sure you're going to watch that match back and you're not going to feel too bad about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think I tried to kill him too many times. I feel like last few weeks I've been getting kills a lot, and I just let it happen, but this time I felt like forcing it a bit too much, so, you know, a few too many times where I was like, yeah, I probably shouldn't have tried that.
Did you get a bit brave after taking Soas down so many times yesterday? Because that was a little bit cheeky, wasn't it, Bwipo?
I mean, I feel like it's just... Honestly, after reviewing the game, I don't even think that I played that well. In the sense of the earlier stages of the lane, I feel like I kind of misplayed. So honestly, I think if I didn't get that kill, I wouldn't have got away with such a good game. So you know, maybe that made me a little more subconscious about this game today, especially considering he like picked the same matchup I picked when I think it's actually a bad matchup for Aatrox. So it's like, I felt like he was cocky and I wanted to punish him for it, and it bit me in the ass.
Well, a win's a win, as a lot of players I interview say. Now, I do want to ask about that Nico pick, because we've seen Nico frequently on the ban bench, and it's normally been focused at people trying to pick her for the bottom lane, right? But this time we saw her in mid, so what was the thinking there?
Honestly, we just think it's a really solid champion right now. We think it can do a lot of stuff, and it's a bit similar to Corki in the sense where if you have Braum, you have a basic attacking mid laner, you can get pretty good team fights off with that. And it has a lot of undiscovered potential going on there. So we just felt like this was one of the matchups where it could shine. Partially thanks to the fact that, you know, you can scale relatively freely and can dodge all the skill shots Zoe has with her shapeshift. So yeah, it's just something we just tried out in scrims and decided it's okay.
So do you think Nemesis might pick her in the future?
I'm sure. I mean, he played it today, right? So it makes sense that he has it in champion pool, he has it ready, but I think that's one of the strengths of our team. I think that at any point, anyone's willing to play a game that they have only played like a champion, even if they've only played 1 or 2 games. They just go on stage because they feel like it's the best pick in that situation, and they'll just do it.
Well, Fnatic's impressive comeback has continued. You're now at 9-7, I believe, and you've got 2 more matches left, of course, in week 9. You're going to be facing G2 and Splice.
Yeah.
So how are you going to be taking those teams on?
I feel like G2, we're definitely going to have to try and match the early game. I think last time we completely disrespected them by drafting a full late game comp with all losing lanes and a losing jungle matchup. So that's obviously not going to happen again. That was not pretty. That said, Splice, I feel like I don't even think that they're a slow team necessarily. I just feel like they don't see the opportunities that other teams do. So in that sense, I feel like we can get away with playing a weaker early game and then still match them in the mid to late game, because I feel like they've always been like that, in the sense that I don't think they're exceptional late game team. They're just considered to be a good late game team. But in the same vein, I think we as Fnatic have been always considered to be the exceptional late game team, in a way.
Well, thank you so much for talking to me, Breepo. We need to go to a short break, because after the break, we've got Rogue versus Origin. Don't go anywhere.
Oh, now we're going to see the level 1 play coming out. Braum, of course, incredibly strong in that level 1. The stun already coming in from the concussive blows. Now Mystique's is in trouble. The flash forward. Mystique's looking for the flank on the backside, but Reckless just tearing through that health bar. True damage. He doesn't care about that damage reduction. Expect next on the list. Huge movement. Sarah on the shapeshifter. Blippo's on the backside as well. That is going to be 1 dead Callista. Cadril just next on the menu. His health bar is irrelevant. Nemesis firing back. Karthus ulti now coming in, but did not. Ooh, did target expect. The animation looking a little weird there. That's going to be the win for Fnatic as they move closer to their playoff goals.
Welcome back to Berlin, Germany. With only 12 games left in the LEC Spring Split and with the race hotting up at both ends, it's once again time for a Medic playoff checkup. Let's start with the top of the table. G2, Vitality and Splyce are locked into playoffs, but those top spots are anything but secure. G2 do face off against Vitality in our final game of the day, and if they win that game, they lock #1 spot in the league. Vitality will want to take home the victory, of course, as they are rapidly being chased down by Splyce in the battle for second place. At the end of today, they could both be tied, but with Vitality owning the head-to-head, it would take at least one more loss against XL or SK next week for Splyce to steal away second. Now, Origin could force a three-way tiebreaker for that second place. They have equal head-to-head with Vitality and Splyce, but Vitality, in that case, would lock in second place due to their superior head-to-head over Splyce. Now, let's look down at the bottom side of the playoff race. With their win today, Schalke are tentatively in the final playoff berth, pushing Misfits and SK out of the top 6. Of these three teams, Misfits have the hardest games left. They play up against Splyce and G2 next week, whereas SK only have to get through Rogue and Vitality. Schalke should hope they can pick up at least one final win, which should, and I do stress should, be enough to secure that final spot. But that's enough for me. We're going to hand it over to our superior casting duo. It's Dracos and Vedi. Guys, take it away.
I feel like once you wear a turtleneck, you just get a little more respect. Superior cast, do highlight. Thank you very much, Medic. Of course, playoffs race is absolutely heating up. But before we get into this next game, we do have to talk about the last one. Your key player of the game was, in fact, Reckless. That one death did not hold him back, despite what we might have thought. It was 51% of the votes. So hefty majority, considering he's going up against two other people.
That's still a decent amount that clearly said that Nemesis and Brox were very impactful in that win as well. But Reckless, when he locks in Vayne, what you gonna do?
You can't. I mean, the only way it's like 100% guaranteed if he wins on Tristana. This man could go 0-9-3 on Tristana, and people be like, hey, Reckless Tristana game, give it to him.
Well, we are going to be jumping into Rogue versus Origin next. Now, Rogue, they are down and out. They cannot qualify for playoffs, but they can cause spoiler in many similar ways to XL. Whereas Origin, they're kind of on a winning streak. In the last 10 games, they've gone 8-2. They've looked extremely strong. Many have considered them, I don't know, do you still think of them as a dark horse? Is that really the right word for them as they look to contend some of the top spots in Europe?
Yeah, I don't think it's safe to call them a dark horse anymore. I think when you talk about the run for second, maybe. Run for playoffs, no. Of course, they do lock playoffs here. If they win, that's going to be important. But where they lock is now kind of the more important discussion. You look at the bottom of the table, the 7 and 8 spots, Misfits and SK, they're still trying to claw in. Misfits. OG, on the other hand, they're pretty comfortable there. Now it's a matter of seeing where they end up in the actual standings at the end of the day.
Yeah, and I think Origin, we heard it from Medic, they want to win as many games as possible, but the remaining games aren't actually against Splyce or Vitality, so it's kind of out of their control to secure top 2. Which I know, having spoken to Deficio, he feels a little frustrated by, especially seeing as all of their losses this split were to Misfits. But regardless, OG's still looking good, and a win today will definitely be very important for them to still contend that top 2 or 3rd place spot. We're now going to be jumping into draft, ladies and gentlemen. This is where we talk about the champion stuff.
And anytime we do this, my eyes immediately jump to that second name on the Rogue lineup, ladies and gentlemen. That is Kikis. And my question to you, Mr. Kikis, is will you play some weird stuff today? That is my #1 question every time, but we're going to have to wait to get there. As Draven will be the initial ban, followed by the Lucian, so a lot of bot lane focus coming in from the respective sides. Nothing too outstanding yet.
Of course, just as a reminder, Woodid and Prophet are in on the Rogue roster this week. Finn and Vander returned to the Regional League to try and help them secure that top spot there, while Woodid and Prophet continue to gain experience working with the team and grow as much as possible before entering the Summer Split. Now, looking at some of the bans that have come across the board, looks like some of the focus has been directed towards EQ from the side of Origin. Both Cassio and Lucian, very strong picks, but also taken out of the hands of the bot laner for Rogue.
Rogue now debating on what their final ban can be. Of course, they have blue side, so they have the luxury of banning away more champions that can be targeted, that can be focused. And in this case, it is Nukedux LeBlanc that will be taken away, taken off the board.
Now, Jace is still available alongside the Jarvan. Looking at some of the power picks. Interestingly, we've seen a pretty dramatic drop-off of Ezreal this patch. Feels like he is nowhere near as important to many teams as he was before. which I find quite interesting. It does mean that things like Kalista have risen in priority, something that Patrick has valued a lot. Over in the LCK, we saw Griffin pretty much first picking it whenever they had the opportunity to do so. And I wouldn't actually be that surprised if we saw Origin do something similar, given that typically in the 2 versus 2, Origin have a lot of faith in their bot lane.
But yesterday, of course, we did see Cold kind of pop off on this Rek'Sai, so not surprising to see them early prioritize it here. But it looks like, Vedius, we may see the Kalista taken as well. So securing that strong jungler for Cold, as well as securing that incredibly strong bot laner into the hands of Patrick. Now, this is a pick that in LCK has looked very good, but I don't think we've seen the same level of performance recently in the LEC.
Yeah, I don't think we've really seen many Kalistas pop off, but I do know that of the Kalistas that have found success here in Europe, Patrick has certainly been one of them. What I already like about this composition from Origin is it is quite early game focused. You have a lot of already clear win conditions, which is, hey, if you get this Kalista ahead in the laning phase, you're going to be looking very good. The problem with locking in the Rek'Sai so early is that it denies the Alistar pick, which Rogue are very quick to grab for themselves alongside the Tristana, which I think in a straight-up 2v2 can come out ahead, as we saw earlier in the day in the Misfits versus Schalke series.
Thresh is, of course, though, another pick that has been finding a lot of success. But the Galio is going to be priority here. Of course, much better synergy with the Kalista than a pick like the Thresh in terms of just raw engage power. So
very strong level 3 in this 2 versus 2 for Origin. So we'll keep our eyes out for that as we get into the game. But now we approach the second half of the draft. What Origin could look to do is deny away some junglers if they assume that the Jarvan is going to go top. Alternatively, they could ban away... Thinking about if they ban away some of the... So I'm thinking... If they're banning away things like Kennen or maybe a Vladimir, that to me suggests that they kind of want to force Profit to take the Jarvan top, because they're thinking, well, you know what? Now there aren't that many good picks into the Jarvan, which means the Origin maybe have something unique prepared for it. But outside of that, this just implies that they have something that they want to draft into the top side of the map that they don't want the Kennen to go up against, in which case they're expecting the Jarvan to go into the jungle. So what I'm basically saying is I have no idea what Origin is planning.
I wasn't going to rat you out. I was going to say, wow, Vedius, I mean, the mind games and picks and bans are so deep, so intense. Thank you for breaking down some of what could be going through the players' heads right now. Zoe the ban, Kennen the ban. We'll see the final ban here for Origin.
But there's a lot of
Vladimir as well.
The mind games. Sure. I can read what Origin is thinking.
I've spoken to Deficio before the game.
I didn't do that.
Just kidding. Obviously. Now we do see the final ban. I wonder if they will take another mid laner away from Nuke Duck, and yes, they're going to take the Syndra off the board. So trying to, I think, take away every single blind pickable mid laner, the LeBlanc, the Zoe, the Syndra as well, to make sure that Origin have to blind pick at least one of their solo lanes in a not comfortable way, but so the Renekton just going to get locked in.
I was right, is what we've learned here.
Yes.
The
don't provide any more context, just you were correct. Yes.
Kennen and Vladimir, good matchups into the Renekton. Not only can they bully him, aside from the Vladimir, but they also have the ability to outscale in the side lane. Interestingly, we're seeing the Ivern jungle, so it will be the Jarvan top, which Origin are more than happy to have the Renekton play into. And this looks like a little bit the Rogue going for a bit of the protect the AD carry composition and a very fast lock-in of the Orianna into the Rise.
Oh, and that's going to be pretty hard to protect the Tristana, I'm going to be honest. That is a Galio that is going to get thrown face first into your team with a potential Orianna Shockwave to follow, as well as a Rek'Sai who has the ultimate that can just about chase you anywhere.
I will say there's not a lot of lockdown on the side of Rogue, so I think it's going to be difficult for them to really kill the Kalista. So I'm kind of seeing it a lot of front-to-back style of fighting from both these teams right now. Given that unless Renekton can get a good flank, I think it's very difficult to dive onto the back line. But Rogue, they actually have a fairly... I don't want to say too squishy of a composition, because they do suppose have the Alistar, and then if they have a Jarvan going with the Ivern buffing him up as well, I think they've got a pretty solid front line. The reality is, though, both teams have pretty good scaling. Both 3 items are very, very good for both teams. I think what our Rogue have a little bit more of is the ability to play the 1-3-1 more on the side lane, because they have the Rise and the Jarvan both running teleport. Whereas Origin, I think the Rek'Sai will be the key thing to keep your eyes on in the early game. He can play around Alfari, he can play around Patrick, and I'm wanting to see Origin actually be more active in the early game with the composition that they've drafted.
We will find out, Venice. Of course, it is Rogue on the blue side, Origin on the red. Origin fans here in the audience want to see this team win, but Origin cannot afford to underestimate Rogue. Every win still does matter for this team. Win here locks them playoffs, and if they want to contest any of those top spots in the playoff bracket, they need to keep finding these wins. A team like Rogue needs to be a speed bump, and they need to dominate. We're going to see if that can happen as we get into game. We almost got synced with the cowbell, ladies and gentlemen. If Mithy plays it again, or Wadid plays it again, I would just, someone could sync up with that. That's all I'm saying. Good opportunity.
Giving them that opportunity. I respect that, Dracos. Ooh, okay, really small fun fact thing that I noticed. Dematerializer on the Ariana is a little surprising to me because she typically has a lot of wave clear that you don't normally need the extra Dematerializer, but what it does mean is that by taking it and killing one of the caster creeps early, it means that you actually have, there's a certain level, I think it's around when you have 4 or 5 points in your queue, but once you've got the Ludens, you can just instantly clear that backline wave, which is super, super valuable. So we want stuff for that extra bit of wave clear, which I think is pretty cool.
And you see the level 1 from Rogue here. The plan is to start with the root collar from the Ivern, and if they hit someone in the bush, all of those champions immediately jump over the bush with the power of that ability. Just find a quick and easy level 1 first blood. Does not pan out as a more aggressive posturing from Alphari, standing, of course, in that side bush in the river. And now we're going to see a much more patient, much slower level 1 than we saw in the previous game. Ivern going to get no leash because it's Ivern. That's not how it works. But Rek'Sai will start solo on the top side.
Yeah, and a Rogue should know that he started up towards the top side of the map because they saw him clear out that ward, and there's no way he'd be able to get to blue buff in time. One of the cool things about Rek'Sai is because the regeneration that you get from your passive, it actually means that you can just solo clear because you have a lot of sustain during your early clears. One of the things that I love to see junglers do against Ivern in particular is invade. His clear speed is, fun fact, not the fastest, and he can't trade for anything. So that's why Cold cleared out that ward earlier on, and it was instantly replaced by Senkux because they wanted to know what Cold was up to in the early game. So I wasn't surprised to see a smite here as it comes through from Kikis to make sure that his jungle counts don't get stolen away by the cheeky and nasty Cold.
And I like to start there, waiting to smite the camp until he thinks one of them might be contested, holding that. Now he can go back to the bottom side and pick up a little bit more experience, get to that level 3. Wolves will be done shortly after the other 2 camps are finished, so he's not in a bad spot overall. Of course, Cold can move into the jungle, can look to contest Ivern taking some of these camps, but all it's going to take is Kikis channeling uncontested to take that one away. And yeah, ladies and gentlemen, that is Ivern. Just a very odd champion. And of course, the thing about Ivern is that he has his own weird jungle pathing, and he forces you to kind of play to his game, right? You have to jungle differently when you're playing against a champion like Ivern.
You certainly do. And while Cole did try to steal away some stuff, try to get in the face of Kikis, make his life difficult, he unfortunately couldn't quite find anything thanks to the good early vision coming out from the side of Rogue. And now Cold will make his way towards the blue buff, while Kikis makes his way back up towards top side. And you will notice that Prophet early on does have the push against Alphari. Renekton is a little level-based in the early game, and until he gets all those points in his levels, he can't really look to trade or be aggressive. Meanwhile, for Prophet, he can just harass with that E. Very low mana cost, recently got buffed and is very obnoxious to deal with, so that's why Prophet is able to get the push up towards the top side. Meanwhile, in the bot, you can see that Rogue respecting the potential level 3 for Mithy and Patrick. Now though, may see a dive up top.
Could see a dive very big. It does connect in the end. Alphari now going to have to flash out to safety. Well played. In the end, they're on the side of Rogue. Very good start to the game to get the flash and not lose anything in exchange. And Alphari already suffering in this lane. 9 CS to the 24 of the Jarvan. Very difficult spot for him to be.
Sure. Alphari being put behind, but Cold immediately makes his way down towards the bot side of the map. Going to use his sweeper to clear out some of this vision. Here we are, Mithy. Where's the flash taunt?
Going to come in, the flash taunt, the 2-man connect. Now Tristana needs to jump out to safety. They're trying to wait for the input buffer, but instead they're going to turn their attention to the Alistar. First blood now dropping for Origin.
Easy peasy stuff for Origin. They find the kill down towards the bot side of the map. He wasn't even overextended, they just didn't have any vision there. They just knew that Kikis was top side. There was no way, realistically, for a counter gank, meaning that Origin find themselves first kill of the game.
And Vedius has predicted that. Level 3, so incredibly strong. Of course, EQ has the tools to get himself out, but indeed just does not have the same luxury, and already we're seeing the Kalista lane get off to a good start. Of course, EQ is going to get maybe a better back here, a bit more CS under his belt, but the gold from the kill definitely going to balance that out as we see the Boots 2 coming in for the Kalista. And Kikis confident enough to move in and contest these camps. Of course, Only level 3. Nuke Duck now moving up to Bully.
He does have Flash. This is a unique
Alfari's
path.
right here.
Yes.
Prophet could try to contest this, but would give up a lot of CS in the process. But Kikis is just going to be able to walk away in the end. Cold now waddling his way forward. Little Land Shark cannot do much here. So Kikis, I mean, very aggressive play. Ultimate is nothing but headbutt pulverizes there. They're not going to try to find the follow-up CC. Nuke Duck immediate cleanse out. Well played on that one.
So, shout out to all the solo queue players. Note how the moment the CC landed, Nuke Duck used his cleanse. He didn't use it after he took all the damage. He did it before that because he respected the potential for him to die.
This is my favorite Vedius. Salty solo queue Vedius is so great because I can tell when you've been grinding recently because your references go from, Captain Jack to, that guy who threw in solo queue. Watch this game and learn. Be better.
That's a little true. It's called the art of Foxtrot had a really good word for it. I can't remember what it is though, but it's the idea that you do it beforehand rather than after it's already happened.
Yep, there you go. Now, of course, Alfari's going to get aggressive here. The flash fall, the knockup Prophet immediately taken down. That's going to help recoup some of the CS differential that Alfari has stacked against him. Well played from Cold once again. This man has been everywhere.
And this is great. This is exactly what we wanted to see from Origin play towards the early game. 6 minutes in, Cold has found 2 successful ganks around the 2 lanes that we expected him to play around, both the Kalista Galio lane along with the Renekton lane, and now they're both in very good spots. Now, sure, Alfari's going to be a little upset that he didn't find the kill, given that he is down in CS, but still, overall advantage gain for Origin. They're now sitting at about a 1,000 gold lead.
And to be fair, if you watched Cold's performance on Rek'Sai yesterday, that incredible team fight where he was able to find all those kills.
Oh, for sure.
You think Cold might have an argument to say, hey, I am the carry jungler now, and this is going to come together. Prophet, you might still expect him to be favored in the 1v1, still has a lot of these good items under his belt, but it does get harder and harder as the Renekton gets to level 6. Not just the extra health, not just the AoE damage, but the additional rage build just makes him such a terror to play in these 1v1s.
So, bit of an invade coming down from the side of Rogue. They want to get information on the red buff, and they will be able to steal this one away. Good awareness from Kikis, knowing that this one would be available, and also means that a red buff will go on to Prophet. One of the advantages of Ivan is that regardless of what blue buff, the red or blue buffs he takes, you can share that. Now immediately they're onto Alfari, no flash.
Going to jump in. Prophet now. Is he going to use the Cataclysm? The Slice and Dice is available. Alfari can just walk right into this one. Can use the Cold Meat to get a little bit more healing. And will dash right out. Beautiful use of the Slice and Dice from Alfari, burning so much time for that one.
Respect to Alfari surviving that once again. I feel like he's a player that is used to now on Origin receiving a lot of pressure thrown towards him. Many other teams don't usually try and attack bot or mid lane. They always go for Alfari, and he's definitely good at soaking up the pressure, but I don't know if he gets away from this one. Cold on the way.
Full Rage Bar gets 2 empowered ability. Will use the Cold Meat to find the healing. Now holding on to the rest of the ability. Will use the empowered Slice. Can't look for the empowered Dice. The tower is there. He's reduced his armor, and that means bam, baby! Kill picked up by Cold.
And Cold didn't even need to be there. That was gonna be an outplay from Alfari. The tower shot was en route, but fortunately it was still secured nonetheless. Beautiful stuff from Alfari, and he's able to get the out.
And Cold hits him with the I'm the jungler and I'm helping. Takes the
this
kill
is
away.
Called the tax, and you have just paid, Alfaro. Thank you very much for that. I'll be back in 5 minutes to
take another one. Let me know when you're going to outplay a dive again. I'll swing back around and just pick that up.
Yeah, hopefully we get to see a replay of that to really acknowledge what he was able to do there. But in the meantime, Rogue have been getting some deep vision. Thank you, observers, for helping illustrate that. And you'll notice that a lot of it is towards the top side of the map, because this has been the lane that Rogue have tried very hard to try and shut down and to really get Prophet ahead.
And now Origin going to take total control of the bottom side. Kick is going to do what he can to clear back here, but without a smite, can't really contest those camps. And Nuke Duck now moving down to the bottom side. They're ready to dive this tower. Galio going to move forward. Is he going to burn the flash? Not going to commit to it. Instead, going to look and turn to the plate. Senkux is on the way, has the Realm Warp available. Do they want to take this fight? Rootcaller missing from Kikis would say no. Of course, Daisy not available either, and Kikis getting further and further behind in the jungle. They're just going to back off, but well played by OG now to shift their attention right back to the Infernal Drake, have sustained this lane pressure here as well, and everything going right for this OG lineup in the early game. 9 minutes in, and it is almost a 2.5k gold lead, as well as a soon-to-be Infernal Drake, so very, very clean game.
Overall, yes, I do feel the only criticism I can throw towards Origin is that their vision has been lacking a little bit, but to look back at this outplay, we see a big heal comes out from Alfari. Note here how he hasn't used his stun yet. He's waiting for the aggro to swap, and because Prophet had red buff, he then draws aggro. He then gets stunned underneath the tower, and you can see that last tower shot would likely have gotten the kill, but just for security, because Cold clearly noticed that Prophet got a tiny bit of health back, he was like, you know what, I'll help you secure this one, Alfari.
And that was a miscall from me, because I thought he was using the Empowered Slice Dice for the armor reduction, but he dashes through the creeps, barely missing the champion, so it doesn't consume the rage, and instead, you know, hits there, connects. So it was a good look overall from Alfari.
Big brain Alfari.
Big brain Alfari. Looks good on this
It's a common
Connected.
thing for us Welsh people, you know? It's like a...
I'm gonna let you have that one.
Thanks, man.
I'm gonna let you have that one because it was obviously a very clean play from Alfari. And I think one of the awkward things about this matchup, Vedius, that we don't see as much in the Aatrox matchup is that Aatrox passive reduces healing.
Right.
Jarvan doesn't have any interaction with that. Iron doesn't have any interaction with that. So when you're diving a Renekton with so many ways to recoup health in the Cold of Meek, it's really hard to kill this guy because Iron doesn't do any damage.
But you know what? He's coming back anyway. Clearly, they've got beef with Alfari, and they want to turn him into a pair of boots as they look to set up another play up topside.
Alfari just going to dash out. Cataclysm has now been used. He just immediately turns with the ult. The Rage Generation's coming in. He's going to use the second dash to make it to safety.
Survives another gank. Alfari, 3 for 3 now, and Cole trying to provide some assistance.
And I'm going to be honest, this is not looking great from the Rogue side. This is 3 ganks that have not amounted to much past a burn flash. Alfari's now going to turn it back. Cold to Meek, dash in, dash out. TP has now been consumed. If Alfari makes it away from this one, it is disaster. Can he do it? The flash to safety. They can't get anything else. Look how many resources have been burned just trying to kill Alfari. If the OG win this game and Alfari is not player of the game, I will be stunned. Because the reality is his scoreline may not look pretty. His farm may not look pretty. But this man has survived literally everything that has been thrown at him.
And this is where my small criticism comes in for Origin. Ooh, that's a good amount of damage on the duo. Mithy forces Wadid out. Patrick forces Hiku out. Beautiful stuff from them. But Cold has spent a lot of time trying to help Alfari in the top side of the map. And sure, he was able to get some kills and turn it around in his favor, but I feel like they could have been much better playing around the bot side of the map, taking a Fnatic approach to the game where instead you just focus on trying to snowball Mithy and Patrick, who are already so far ahead. It should be easy for them to maybe secure an early tower and take more control over the map so you can sooner get Alfari out of this 1 versus arguably 3 at this point.
1v3-4 if Daisy's available as well. It really depends on the context, Vedius. The issue, I think, for Rogue right now is that everything is going right for OG. Every single lane is doing well. The one lane that they've tried to put down is surviving, is doing fine, is even to a certain degree ahead in items over his respective lane opponent. So things will only go from bad to worse if Rogue cannot find a greater advantage here. Eyes on Kikis at this point. He has the redemption. He's got good setup. May not have the damage, but has the setup for his respective damage dealers. And he needs to get something done because everything that he's tried so far has just fallen flat.
Completely agree. Kikis has tried a lot, but unfortunately hasn't resulted in much. He will have the redemption completed now, so that extra bit of healing will definitely be valuable in team fights later on. But just notice that Patrick is running the Hail of Blades. Some may be familiar with like Lethal Tempo because it's much stronger in the later game. But the thing about Hail of Blades is it makes you so much stronger in lane because you can very quickly get a bunch of Ren stacks into an enemy champion almost immediately. So that's where his lane dominance is coming from right now, as Origin continue to push the lead all across the map.
And Origin fans cheer for this Rift Herald charge. They're going to get one more. They weren't ready for that one, though. Understandable. The double charge, not something you always see. A little bit of gold goes over to Senkux. It is 18.6k to 23k, ladies and gentlemen. Rogue versus OG. Rogue already out. We were wondering if they could play spoiler. Well, it's going to take a lot at this point if they want to continue to hold that role, as OG just have a near indomitable gold lead. First item spikes completed pretty much across the board outside of top lane. You see the Warrior Enchant coming in, the Luden's Echo, the Blade of the Rune King. And all of these champions are pretty scary on one item.
Yes, they certainly are. Luden's Echo Orianna is actually like really uncomfortable. I really don't like playing against it. She gets even scarier once she completes the Nullifying Orb. But Blade of the Rune King, Kalista, very scary. Rage Blade is what I expect second. Some do go for the Rune's Hurricane, depending on your preference. There's a lot of options. Fortunately for Alfari, yet to complete his Black Cleaver, but I can't blame him, considering the amount of ganks that have been thrown his way. Definitely a big item spike for him once he completes it, because it'll increase his trading power a lot. And it's also, I believe it's very easy to stack with his ultimate as well, right? So
ultimate does magic damage, but when you have the Rage, obviously a Q, a W, and E, you're at 5 stacks, including an auto.
Right.
I mean, you get to 5 stacks almost instantaneously.
Right.
and the additional movement speed on an ability like Ruthless Predator that has such a long animation is really nice to have. Good stuff.
So right now, Rogue are actually moving up towards the top side of the map, and OG recognizing this, make a play towards the Drake. I think they'll be fine sacrificing this tower, and Alfari just needs to make sure he doesn't overstay his welcome.
A question though. Alfari's a bold man, Vedius. Will he commit? He's used his ulti, he's committing. There's not a creep wave here, they're fully gonna commit for the dive. They're gonna try to kill the Croc, he's knocked back to the middle team, he's gonna dash through, he gets knocked away by the Tristana, insult the injury, the Galio now coming in, Colby gonna give him a little bit more help. EQ, desperate to get this kill. Alfari is still alive, are you kidding me? Send a 5th one, Rogue, it's just not gonna happen.
You gotta give a shout out to Mithy there, the ultimate coming in clutch, keeping the top laner alive. I think that's 5v5 that Alfari has now survived, even in a 1 versus 4. He walks away with his life. Beautiful stuff from Alfari, but the supporting stack from Origin coming in clutch.
In the LCK, it's the Immortal Score, and the LEC, it's the Immortal Alfari. This man just refuses to die. Someone by an Executioner's calling. Shut this man's healing down, it's just too much. But as you said, whole team effort. They saw that play coming, they get the dragon on the bottom side, and everything just going flawlessly for
So
OG.
what is he? It's 1v4 in this situation. Burns the ultimate early to try and clear the wave to make the siege harder. Unfortunately, he gets hit by the root caller, which makes it easy for Alfari to then set up the... Sorry, what did to set up the knockup. Alfari doing what he can to get tiny bits of healing back, and unfortunately, EQ just doesn't have any damage this early into the game. Then Mithy shows up, gets a really good flash taunt, and Rogue, they're just forced to walk away with no tower.
And a tragic Buster shot fired as he was dashing, so it sets him back under the tower. Good input buffer there by EQ. Could have lost his life in that exchange. As close to is just getting stronger and stronger.
Well, can we just appreciate that Patrick is 70 CS ahead of EQ right now?
Look, in the flurry, in the blind whirlwind, Vedius, that has been Alfari tower dives, we've kind of forgotten the other lanes. I'm going to be honest.
True.
Fantastic CS discrepancy there for Patrick. Individual, oh my God, are you?
He's actually just obliterated him.
Okay, stats. Please bring us the upcoming schedule for Origin, because this one might be donezo. We'll wait to see if Rogue has signs of life, but let's talk about what's coming up for OG, because in this game they absolutely do look dominant, Vedius. But when we look at the future, when we look at the upcoming games, you kind of see exactly what's ahead of them. And as you mentioned, they don't get to play those teams they're in contention with, but they do have a pretty comfortable schedule.
Yes, they go up against Schalke, they go up against XL, and you can see that Schalke, while they did get a win today, you can argue that Misfits lost more than Schalke won.
I think that's a pretty easy argument.
And XL, they're playing with a sub, and based on Fnatic's performance earlier in the day, you can see that if you get a control over the game early, then it's very easy to kind of snowball that lane. And I think that right now, Origin are on track to win the next 3 games, and they'll be tied towards the top of the standings. But because there's some head-to-head records, I believe they are 0-2 against Vitality, means that in the event that they are tied, they would not come out ahead on a head-to-head record. I believe that's what Medic was telling us about earlier on. So while the wins are important and that fight for second is still a reality, unfortunately it isn't quite fully in Origin's control.
No, definitely not. Of course, even if they win all 3 of these games, they will only finish at 12-6, and there's enough teams with leads over them that they are kind of relying on some other teams to find some wins, to take down some of these other top contenders. And of course, winning here does lock them into playoffs. What spot will remain to be seen. And
that's important to remember as well. At the beginning of the split, all Origin ever said is that they wanted to qualify for playoffs. That was their split goal. They were invested in growing this team, making sure that they would eventually get better over time. And I think we can safely say that over the course of this split, they have definitely shown significant growth. Really for all players, you know, I think we've criticized pretty much everyone on this roster outside of maybe Nukeduck throughout the entirety of this split. We've said Cold, his impact early game has been non-existent.
Yep.
We've criticized Alfari for constantly dying isolated. Mithy has been one of the main contributors of the early deaths at the beginning of the split. Whereas you look at them now, Patrick is dominating his laning phase, Mithy isn't dying, he's making these clutch plays, Alfari is soaking up all the pressure, Cold has been involved in every kill in the early game, and Nukeduck as reliable and stable as he always has been. So definitely a scary team moving into playoffs. Should they win this game, they will lock that in, and it's shaping up to be pretty exciting playoffs, I think, Dan and Dracos.
Absolutely. I like the playoffs race, of course, 1 week ahead of us. You know, a lot of teams with only 2 games remaining. Some of those teams that we'll see in our final match of the day with 3. Vitality versus G2. But it is a very tight race at the end. And that's what I like to see. I like to see these contentious teams. Some teams rising, some teams falling in the LEC, which is exciting to see. OG, of course, one of these rising teams. And as you mentioned, hard to be critical of this team, as they've improved so much. Almost everything we've kind of criticized or been like, hey, stop dying in the early game. Well, they stopped dying in the early game. They have been making those marked improvements.
I mean, I can't criticize them if you won.
Yeah.
Got some stuff.
Hit me.
All right, so a couple things. In the early game, I felt they could have played better around bot. We already talked about that.
Nice.
Right now, with the Baron spawning relatively soon, you'll actually notice that they've invested no vision towards the top side of the map. That is pretty much entirely controlled by Rogue. And Origin instead is just putting priority on sieging towards these towers. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but trying to break into the base may be difficult if they aren't willing to take a bit of a risk. And this is something that Origin have struggled with in the past. They usually like the 80% plays rather than the 50% ones, and going for a dive, even against a very weakened Rogue, is always a gamble. But I think they're strong enough to do it. Let's see if they can.
Trying to find the follow-up on a rise. Immediately that health bar just disappears. Goodbye to Senkux. Rek'Sai goes in. Rek'Sai goes out. Now the Galli ulti is coming in as well. They're going to have a hard time killing Cold. Alfari is not even into the fight, but they may be able to take down Patrick. That health bar getting lower and lower. Leap in, but the taunt mid-air. Dodge out from the shockwave. EQ now running for his life. Blasting back Patrick to keep himself safe. And OG just going to set their sights on this bot lane tower. Only one member dropping on the side of Rogue, but they're giving up an inhibitor in exchange.
Great to see from Origin. They execute the dive, and while it wasn't the cleanest dive in the world, they end up getting the kill onto Senkux. They get the summoner spells out from Hikyu, and they walk away with an inhibitor 20 minutes into the game. So can't fault them for that. Great to see this kind of aggression from Origin.
And Vedius, now with the bot lane inhibitor down, you said you wanted to see more around the Baron, and I imagine we're going to start to see more around the Baron, but first, we can just take a look at how this bot lane play played out.
So the focus here is clearly Senkux. He's the squishier of the two. Know how it did immediately goes onto the Orianna, which means that insta-kill can't come out, but it doesn't matter because Senkux dies anyway. Patrick here, he gets a little overzealous. He goes onto the front line, allowing Jarvan to just dive on top of him. Nukeduck can't really follow because he's already taken a lot of damage. I believe it was from the tower. But then the moment Alfari joins, Rogue is immediately forced to disengage. So they can't continue on with the fight, but Origin don't care because they get themselves the tower and the inhibitor.
And just absolute dominance from OG. Of course, once again, we look back at this game, remember that Origin have won out in a lot of these individual lanes. The one lane where it really felt like Rogue had an advantage early on, just they could not get anything greater. And so while we were honestly poised to have a slightly closer game, it just feels like individual ability, shined through here for Alfari. Senkux versus the super minions on the bottom side. That is now the story we're looking at. He will not be able to break this tower. Will eventually be able to break the tower.
The one thing we actually haven't talked about is Origin were on track to actually get a perfect game, which will now be ruined by Senkux as he secures his tower in the bot side. They don't really care though, because Origin have their eyes set on the Baron. Here comes the TPs.
Maybe they can find them in the pit. This would not be the first time today that we've seen a Baron turn everything around for a team. Redemption now comes into the middle of everything. Alfari taking a lot of damage. Redeem finding the head eyes on Hikyu. He's going to be able to take down Patrick. No, Patrick is still alive. That's the shutdown. Big money going to the pockets of Rogue. Now the retreat. Beautiful ulti coming in from Prophet. Realm Warp onto the backside. Would looking for another combo. Gets another 3-man. That's too clean. Nukeduck now running. Desperate to get away from Senkux. Now OG need to find a way out of this play, and Rogue, signs of life showing through.
This is actually a massive team fight for Rogue. I'm curious as to how many shutdowns they got off the back of that fight, because by finding those kills onto Patrick and onto Mithy means that a lot of gold will come back into the pockets of Rogue. And I want you to keep your eyes on the positioning of Patrick in this fight. You'll note right now that he is stuck in the Baron pit, taking all these hits from the Baron. At the moment when Jake goes in, he gets that knockup and he hits him immediately back into the Baron pit. That means that it was effectively a 5v6, and Rogue were very quick to utilize that extra member to shut the AD carry down from Origin. This stops the Baron, gets a little bit of gold back in the pockets of Rogue, and will buy them a little bit more time for Hikyu to come online.
And just a really beautifully played team fight by the side of Rogue, especially with Deed. Senkux using the Realm Warp to give him yet another flank. He had a 3-man headbutt pulverize, then a 2-man headbutt pulverize. So clutch in these exchanges, and of course, CC, the one thing you can't buy in the game, so no matter how far ahead OG get, there's still the potential for that Alistair to be the bigger difference maker.
Ultimately, though, there's still a
7K, 3 Drakes, 7 towers to 1. So no doubt that Rogue will need at least 3 more. I'm going to say 3. You kind of just pick a random number bigger than 2 at this stage. More of those fights to turn this game back around.
I mean, the bright side for them is Prophet is as strong as Alfari is.
True.
And he had a pretty good fight overall, diving onto the backline. I loved his use of the Cataclysm to then EQ immediately back out, to trap them all in, to then set up what did for the flank was very, very cool. And this is one thing you do have to respect. Rogue, their team fighting is, their composition is not terrible. We talked a little bit about how the Ivan can offer a lot of protection and utility, and with the Tristana now completing 2 items, he is not, or she rather, is not irrelevant. And so Origin, this might slow them down a lot. We wanted to see a little bit more aggression, wanted to see them try and force more plays. They tried to force the Baron, and it didn't quite go the way that they wanted. So now they're going back to pressuring all 3 lanes. They have bot pushing in their favor. They're going to have mid and top pushing, and what you'll likely see is they'll gain vision control over the top side of the jungle, starve Rogue of vision, and then they'll either force them to come and face check so that they can look for a fight that way, or they might just secure the Baron themselves. And it looks like face check is the option.
And it's not just the gold lead, of course, that puts Origin in a favorable position. It's Kikis going down there in the exchange. No, the shield coming through. The Redemption as well. The Ignite ticking, not enough! Redemption just a little bit too slow. That Sky Laser not going to save the day, and now Origin posed to take this. This is not a 50-50, ladies and gentlemen.
Widid's going in.
Kalista. Widid still trying to make the difference, trying to make the big play, trying to stop them from getting any further. They're knocking Alfari back. Mindy's on the backside. Look at those carries just get deleted. They cannot fight disjointed like that. OG quick to punish.
And the teleport immediately from Alfari.
Here it is.
Big pick, big fight for Origin. They have the Nexus set in their eyes. This is going to be Rogue falling to the power of Origin.
And ladies and gentlemen, it was a commanding win from Origin. Rogue showed a few signs of life, but overall this was Origin's story from start to finish. Alfari taking all of the gank pressure and turning it into nothing, but an inhibitor respawning could stop this game in its tracks. Will they go for anything else? Super Minion is here, tower falling down. Low respawn timers. Widid is now back up. EQ back up in 5 seconds. I don't think they can do it, Betty, but there is a chance. They can look for a fight here. The Nexus is exposed. Patrick now pulling back. Prophet has to commit forward because if he doesn't, his base will die. EQ trying to find a few autos, but has to run face first into Alfari. The Renekton is too big, but maybe they can take him down. The healing coming in. Cold now on a rampage. Galio locked off to the side. Senkuk desperate to find the kill. Moves forward to get knocked up. Now the Zhonya's comes out. They buy a brief moment here. Minty now set to fall. Patrick stepping forward. Rogue still holding on the flash forward. Nuke in trouble. The follow-up CC is there. The cleanse immediately may not be enough. He's running. He's going to make it out. Senkuk's looking for more. Kalista threatening in the mid lane. That's going to be the second one. EQ flashes forward, knocks him back, does manage to get the kill here. Alfari moving in the waves. They're going to take 3 inhibitors in the exchange, but Rogue could still live. Shutdown is huge. Closer and closer to the 3-item Tristanas. That may be enough for Rogue to hold on a little bit longer, but no doubt that OG, despite losing so many members, still walk away on top as 2 inhibitors have fallen.
The question for me is, do Rogue now look to rush the Baron? They have all 5 members alive. There's no teleport on Alfari, and there's still decent death timers sitting on top of Nukta. Looks like Rogue can't afford to take the gamble. They have to clear out the minion waves. Origin, they're taking a number of gambles. This is not the typical Origin that we see, but not always going in their favor, and this is where the commit comes through. You'll notice that Tristana's still not alive yet. A lot of time is bought by Prophet and Widid. They're just soaking up a lot of the damage. Hiku then joins the fray. He then initially chunks out Alfari, and Widid finally drops. Then Senkuk joins the fight, and with the 2 damage dealers not really untouched and none of the utility thrown on top of them, they're actually in a great position to start forcing Origin back. And then once Origin take all this damage, remember that Rogue can go back to their base, heal up, and then rejoin the fight. It means that Origin just don't have the resources to continue, but even so, Origin with the amount of gold lead that they have is able to turn for an inhibitor, and while Nuke tried, unfortunately, the shockwave was not enough to one-shot Hiku, and he finds at least another kill.
Game of inches there, definitely on that play from EQ, but getting that shutdown is massive. 2-1-1, he has 3 items, excuse me, as he continues forward into this game. Widid still
stay
these
still,
flanks.
because remember, Cold can spot him out with the Tremor Sense, but he's just lying in wait.
Sadly, Hiku could very quickly find himself in no man's land. He sees multiple members coming, he needs to walk away, but Patrick now in trouble. They're going to try to find the turn here, going face first to the right, but he's going to channel up the taunt kick. He's doing what damage he can, but the Kalista going to be very tanky. Now pulling the support back inside of him, moves back out. That's going to be a coming in Prophet. Patrick, flash forward, the auto attack going to get it cold on the back line, wreaking havoc though, cutting through the respective carries. Rogue have nothing left. There is nothing for them. A beautiful fight from OG, the back line finding their way forward.
The flank looked promising for Rogue as they were looking to shut down Patrick, but Origin successfully bought enough time and they turn it into a 4-for-1. Origin have the Nexus in their eyes and they're looking to secure another win and a spot in playoffs.
The Origin faithful are alive in the LEC crowd today as they look at this game, they look at this finish, they look at the dominance coming in from Origin. Widid doing what he can, but that is going to be all she wrote. Origin securing their spot in the LEC playoffs.
Origin definitely took a lot more risks than they typically do, and while a lot of them did not pan out, it's nice to see slightly different shade from the side of Origin. Typically, we only talk about them as the calm, calculated, pristine team that only ever makes the 80% chance of success play. Whereas this time around, they were definitely throwing those moves out there, seeing what Rogue could do. And there were small opportunities for Rogue to come back, but unfortunately for Rogue, the goal difference was just too big, and Origin were able to find themselves still overall a very convincing win.
And to be fair to OG, they were heftily in the very, very dominant
Those
goal
risks you could afford to make. You know, they were smart investments.
We can call it that. Or it's just like so rich you don't care if you throw money away. I mean, maybe not a smart investment. You're just so far ahead it doesn't matter to you.
That's very, very fair. And yeah, for Rogue, they did show signs of life. They attacked the top lane a lot, and maybe if they'd been able to shut down Alfari, it could have been a slightly different game, but the difference in the bot lane was absolutely huge. Props to Patrick and Mithy. On top of that, Alfari, the man on the screens, he survived at least 5 ganks that were thrown towards him. Even in a 1 versus 4, yes, he did get a little bit of help, but this man had a fantastic game, and that is a prime example of how you can absorb pressure while the rest of your team dominates.
Just a stunning performance across the board. I really think just dominance once again from the side of Origin. Cole definitely a key player in this team's success. Good to have the Origin fans in the house as well to see this kind of win. Hey, it's expecting Officio.
Yeah, it is expecting Officio. But they're not the stars of today's show.
They're absolutely not. I'd be lining up to high-five Alfari if I were them too. He just completely shut down a team's strategy by himself.
Beautiful stuff from Origin. I'm looking forward to seeing how they do in Week 9, our final week of the split.
Yeah. Gonna be interesting. Once again, Schalke, XL. XL has proven that they can kind of be that threat potentially, and Schalke, hard to know.
Really know.
Hard to know where they stand. Now, Oduwamne, regardless of the fact that he was basically fed a quadra kill today, was looking good before that point, so I think that that's a great sign for the team overall. See what it means up against Origin and Alfari. See if Alfari can keep this kind of unkillable streak up.
Alfari is going to be an exciting one.
And this is the thing I love about 9-4 and I guess next week 9-5 as well, is that thank God Sion and Urgot are gone. Can we all just appreciate that? We actually get to watch the top lane.
Did you see it over in the LCK? First game, SKT versus Griffin. Aatrox versus Urgot. But anyway, we didn't see that today. Alfari with some clutch outplays. Early Flash initially looked bad for him. He was a level down. Things were looking dire. But this was the really clutch one. You can see on your minimap, Cold already making his way over, trying to support his top laner, but he didn't really need it. Alfari waited for the red buff to proc. He then came in. He gets the stun. I still think that would have been a kill. I think Alfari should have taken that one, but Cole just getting the secure. And this was the 1 versus... Oh no, this was it. Yeah, the 1 versus 3. Rise comes through. Alfari, he had to use his flash hit.
Flash back up.
But is able to get out of there with his life as well. And now we see the 1 versus 4 play, and he's just trying to clear out the wave. Unfortunately, he gets hit with the root caller. But then you talked about it, Dracos, in the game. That knockback from Tristana, thinking it was enough burst damage. Even so, they still think they can go for the dive, but then that clutch Galio ultimate comes through.
The best part is that second play goes wrong because he's able to walk into a full creep wave, Cole the Meek, empowered, get all of his health back. The next play where they finally have an ignite, he gets knocked away by the buster shot.
Very unfortunate there. And this was the final fight that ultimately decided the game. Patrick looked like he was caught out, but even in that instance, he was able to find himself a kill.
And I'll be honest, when I was casting his team fight videos, I was watching the top of the fight. I was like, Rogue are so great. And then I looked down at the kill feed, and I'm like, wait, all the carries on Rogue are dead. What happened? And it's because it was 2 fights. We had frontliners jumping backliners on both sides, and it turns out the team with the 10K gold lead won the fight. Who would have thought? Well, right now there's a battle between Cold, Alfari, and Mithy for Kia Player of the Game award. You can go to @AllEsports on Twitter and make your vote count. I've already said how I feel, and I will be severely disappointed, audience. Do not disappoint me. To learn more about Origin's win, though, let's leave it to Frankie, who's sitting down with Nuke Duck and Mithy.
Yes, I'm delighted to be joined by the Origin boys, especially as there's a family road trip in the audience. Have you met these fans before? Mithy?
No, we haven't, but we're grateful that they're here.
Yeah, are you surprised to see so many people here, specifically for you today, Nuke Duck?
Yeah, I think it's cool. We have like a lot of Danish fans and Spanish fans. Yeah.
And congratulations, guys. You locked playoffs today. How does it feel?
Feels good. Feels like we're on the right track.
Yeah? The right track. Give me something more, Nuke Duck. How does it feel? Dig down, emotional. Give me something.
I'm gonna have to dig deep for that. But no, we just play one game at a time, and for us, if we play well and everything works, playoffs is kind of a given. So for me, it's not really anything special.
But here's the thing, though. Actually, at the start, in the first half of the split, playoffs was not a given. You were not playing on the form that you're playing now. So that is why I'm surprised you're so chilled about this. I'm really curious about how you managed to make things work after that slow start to the split.
Well, it's the start of a new year, new team. So there were a lot of fundamentals and a lot of ideas and things that were different, or like we just were not really that connected. Not to say that now we are like a perfect team or anything close to that, but we understand each other better. So, you know, it's the same as what Erlen just said. We've been taking game at a time, even back then, you know, through the tough times, I guess. So, yeah, I mean, it's just the same now. We're just trying to keep the same mindset.
And now they're calling it Year of the Duck, New Duck. How much of a role have your teammates played in that?
What? Again?
How much of a role has your teammates played in making this the Year of the Duck?
I mean, apparently every year is Year of the Duck, but they know. But yeah, of course, the team, like when the team is playing well, it's easier for me to play well. So yeah, they have the greatest impact.
And actually today, what was quite interesting was that we saw you making a few late game gambles. That's uncharacteristic for Origin.
Honestly, it really felt like we were not really playing against an opponent. So we, like, not to say that, not to blame Rogue or anything like that. It's just they were not really making anything proactive. So we tried to take too much, and then they punished us for it. So yeah, we're characteristic, I guess, for our controlled game, but because they were not really doing much, I guess we were not really letting them do much, and then eventually we just felt too confident, and they punished us for it, which was well played by them, but yeah, it was also like us being too overconfident.
Nuke Duck, were you slightly disappointed by how scared Rogue were of you in the early game?
What? You have to speak up a bit.
I'm going to start shouting. So, in the early game, Rogue seemed too scared of you. They didn't even want to present you with fights.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, they were trying some stuff, but yeah, as Smithy said, it felt like it was just open, to be honest, like at 15 minutes. So yeah, I don't know.
Okay, well, we've had a bit of BMing of the poor Rogue boys, but yesterday, Cold actually went a little bit in on G2. So I'm curious to know what you guys are thinking, because you are going to be seeing them in playoffs for sure now.
You mean how we feel about playing G2?
He said that you guys play smart, but G2, not so much. Do you back him up on that?
Everyone has their, you know, I don't think League is like a very complex game. Everyone plays how they, like everyone just plays to win. I guess G2 plays really overconfident because, you know, they feel like they can take 4v5s or 3v5s sometimes, and they do take them, and they usually come out ahead. So I'm not to say that they're not playing smart. I'm pretty sure that they are aware that they're taking a 3v5. They're just, you know, taking it anyway because they trust in their own skill. So I respect them, but I definitely feel like we can beat them.
Okay. Well, I've been told that we are ready to reveal the key-up player of the game. Who do you think it is, guys?
It's me.
Yeah, I don't know who. Maybe Cold or Mithy or Barney, I don't know.
What is up with you guys?